feeling in front of that large of a crowd. It's something to be unrivaled in driving, that's for sure.
And there's a start, and we'll have a little overview of the course. This was the 3-day event course that we saw earlier in the week, and Wolfgang Essendorf, the course designer, actually had to wait until the 3-day event completed so he could finish his construction of the course. So he had a great crew, and you can see a bit of a pit stop there, and the horses being attended to, some water being put on them.
These horses are getting cooled out just after the section of obstacles. Here we are looking at the beautiful sunflowers on the Aachen course, part of the sunflower obstacle in Obstacle 2.
And Dave, here's a graphic of the course. Take us through it.
Okay, the WEG driving course starts off in Section E, and you see that they have a little bit of a winding course. Come up to Obstacle 1. Obstacle 1 is the WEG 2006 obstacle. You can see the spelling of the date of the games, a series of pens and gates, lots of tight turns to the left, to the right. The horses are going to be circling around. Then they leave and head off to Obstacle 2, the sunflowers. Really large open obstacle with a lot of big 3-meter openings, a lot of switchbacks, a lot of turns to the left, to the right. Interesting. It's going to be a large hazard or obstacle to drive, and there's going to be a lot of carry between the gates.
And we're going to see horses weaving in and out of those gates in a prescribed manner. So
yes, you are, Nancy. Into Obstacle 3, the Seaside Resort, over this huge bridge. It's got a lot of height over the water, onto this grassy pad that has some boxes on the other side of it. Those are also gated with letters. Also underneath the bridge is gated with letters and obstacle markers that have to be traveled through.
And here's sort of a test drive before the course goes into competition. Someone actually drives the course, I believe, David, to make sure that it is drivable.
That's correct, Nancy. This is one of the committee members of Aachen who is not driving for his team this year, so he gets to test drive the course, and he's going to actually see that this course is drivable, that the turns are makeable, that the turn from A to B is possible, and that the course designer hasn't gated it too difficult or too easy for the actual competitors to drive. So he's going to test drive it or forerun this course.
Keep in mind, too, there is a time allowed for the marathon phase, an optimum time. They'll be getting penalties, the very same as they would in 3-day eventing. So it's in their interest to do this really as quickly as possible.
Yeah, it's interesting analogy to watch this test drive. This gentleman's a good test level to see how the horses are going to turn. Are they going to turn left? They're going to turn right, and they'll get a pretty good sense of how fast these horses will travel through, and these teams will travel through these obstacles, and what their total time for this obstacle will be. You can see them trying to make a pretty tight turn to the right, and they're going to probably pull these horses up and put them up on the bank here.
And David, as this progresses today, you're going to show us how we are going to make these poor horses do what they're told. It's very, very exciting discipline. I find I have enough problems making one horse go in the right direction.
It's just interesting to listen to Mr. Van Buchels here driving these horses, and he uses a lot of voice command along with his aids, his reins, his whip, and he's trying to encourage these horses. Now you can see them picking up a little speed as they exit the obstacle zone.
And is that a normal thing? We will hear some vocal encouragement?
You're going to hear everything from silence and cheering from the crowd and silence from the drivers to some of the drivers that are actually very, very vocal and very, very loud. We come along here to Obstacle 4, the Aachen or Octagon. This is an interesting obstacle, a lot of different boxes and elements on the ground, a lot to think about, a lot to look at, and I think this is going to be interesting to get fast times for drivers in because it's just so much to negotiate. Coming along now to Obstacle 5, the Mikado. It's another pen-type hazard where you have a lot of triangles. It's a very, very colorful hazard, as you're going to see, or obstacle. There's a lot of high sticks that are multicolored and will make it interesting from traveling through the obstacle from gate to gate, because this can make a lot of confusion for the drivers and for the horses.
We actually saw that in the 3-day event. We had several shots through those pickup sticks as they look.
Very good. On to number 6. This is an obstacle that is also very, very large. Sort of has a bowling alley effect where there's a lot of gates and chutes in between pins. We call these things, these boxes, triangles. It's going to be a hard one to negotiate as well. Into number 7, the Arabian Oasis. Here we're mixing water and a little bit of an embankment coming up into some trees and foliage and different boxes, which will make it interesting also. Finally, into number 8, the Eiffel Village. The horses will have to travel through an arch to come in. They have these boxes to negotiate. These are going to be difficult because it's easy for a horse to put his leg under one of these openings, and it's going to be more difficult to negotiate as well.
And keep in mind, this is the second phase. Yesterday was dressage, marathon today, and of course, the cones is the third phase, and it's exciting as well with its time allowed. And you're looking at Stadium 2. It is where the event horses had their dressage, and of course, yesterday, the driving horses had their dressage phase. There's Michael Freund. He was third after dressage yesterday. You can see his very beautiful carriage and four in hand and his 2 footmen behind.
Yeah, Michael's had an interesting career. He's done an amazing job standing up for the sport and being what we would call the Tiger Woods of driving. Here's Eisbrun Chardon, who was second yesterday in the dressage. That's his wife and his son. And the winner of the dressage, America's Chester Weber.
And really, I think all of these drivers we have seen at the Royal Winter Fair at some point, and it just amazes me to see them make the 4-in-hand rein back. And a nice crowd today, certainly for the marathon phase. I'm sure you'll see well over 100,000 people. And here's the current team standings. United States on top with a fairly good lead. Belgium second, and Germany, of course, hot on their heels, the Netherlands, and so on down. So a tight race there for third position, but the States looking great right now.
Yeah, the States is in great shape, Nancy, after Tucker Johnson and Chester Weber's dressage scores yesterday. Chester winning the dressage and Tucker being 5th puts them into first place with two scores in the top 5. It's really great.
And I hear the start whistle, and I think our first competitor is about ready to get underway, and the excitement begins. And here we go with our first team of the day from Austria, Fred Obenauer.
Just at the start of the E section, and they're on course.
Most of these, obviously, they're 4-in-hand, David, but a lot of the drivers are fortunate enough to have a spare horse. So can they just switch around whenever they want?
Well, they usually switch in and out depending on the expertise level of the horse. So I'm sure Fred's team here, he has his 4 best marathon horses, and maybe his best dressage horse could be still back in the barn from yesterday.
On section E, the marathon section, first to go on the cross country, number 5, Fred Obenauer of Austria.
So he's the first one, as you just heard, to go on the cross country. We'll see him coming out through the trees in the moment.
Looks like he's headed up to obstacle 1, hidden behind the trees right now. Hopefully we'll hear here.
He's coming in with a dressage score yesterday of 42.7. Now you see 3 people on there, David. There's the driver, obviously we know who he is. Who are the other 2 people and what are their duties?
Well, the man standing right now behind Fred on the top step, or right directly behind him, we call the top step man or the navigator. He's telling Fred which direction to go. He's also keeping the time of the carriage, how long they're on course, what their total time is of the marathon. He's doing the timekeeping. The man on the back is the back stepper. He's more ballast than anybody else on the carriage. He has a lot of control over the back end of the carriage, how it steers through the obstacles. Also, he acts as I mentioned, ballast to keep the carriage down on the ground.
But also, he's in kind of a precarious position down there once they get going and making these twists and turns. I mean, actually, I have seen at some point they can be thrown right off.
They can be thrown right off. They can turn over. Actually, you can see he's kind of lax right now, just standing back there. He's probably just getting his game face on and getting into the zone. Very shortly, he's going to have a lot of work cut out for him, or he's going to be trying to hang out the side of that carriage, similar to sailboats, and keep that carriage on the ground as it changes terrain. He's also going to try and keep that carriage from banging in or smacking into different posts along the way in the obstacles.
And what happens if he does get thrown off? Do they have to stop and pick him up, or what goes on then?
Well, generally, they don't stop in the obstacle. The driver will keep going. It'll be the navigator or the groom's job or the backstep's job to catch up at the end of the obstacle, but the driver will automatically incur 10 penalty points, which will pretty much take him out of the running.
So he wants his person behind to have good balance himself and to hang on tight.
Yeah, not a job for the inexperienced, Nance. These people have to be well conditioned and have a really good understanding of the course. Both these navigators spend a lot of time with the driver in the obstacle, so they know which way he's going to turn. He's going to turn left, he's going to turn right, depending on how the obstacle's set. So they know what's going to happen here to the best of the driver's ability. Now you can see them coming along the track towards obstacle 1.
The other thing I'm curious about, show jumpers and eventers, of course, walk their course beforehand. Do the drivers do this?
They walk it, and they walk it over and over and again. So they spend a lot of time in these obstacles.
So each obstacle has a time allowed to go through it, correct? Because we're seeing the clock.
Exactly, Nancy. It's totally added into their total section time. You can see that this driver, he just clipped that post a little bit. He is sort of weaving his way through here, maybe taking a little longer approach than we're going to be seeing. You can see him holding those reins. As he turns right, he gathers a little bit more rein on the right-hand side and puts it in his hands to try and hold the horses off on the left side from coming around left. Looks like a little bit of a tough job.
And again, to equate it with 3-day eventing for the uninitiated, there are long and short ways of going through these obstacles, correct?
Exactly. There's many options. I understand that this course designer has tried to set an option for every turn so that you can go left or go right, and they'll let the competitors leave it for the driving versus they're forced to go a specific direction. This is a little bit of a hard turn here.
You can hear that vocal encouragement from Fred saying, get up.
Yeah, not a great place to have your horses stall on the hill. There's always a chance that they will come down backwards, and then you really get piled up, so to speak, and very hard to drive out of some of these situations. A lot of these whips and drivers have success how they drive out of a situation.
Yeah, he was trying to make that short turn and had to stop momentarily, and of course the clock is ticking. So
the clock is ticking. Interestingly enough, he didn't wait around a long time. He pulled the horses around to the left, came down onto this flat pad here, and now he's going to make another attempt at it. So the total maximum time allowed in these obstacles is 5 minutes, and time is ticking away.
you could just see evidence of the navigator there pointing out to him, go there.
Well, what's happening is Fred's a little bit confused because he's missed a turn. He has to get the gates in order, so he has to go through the A, B, C, D, E, F sequence. And he may be getting a little bit confused. There he gets the turn that time. And the navigator's been trying to get him back on course to say, you are here.
So it's almost like a triple combination. If you miss the first one, you've got to go right back and
well, you got to get them in order, and
back
if you
on track.
You can't go through them in not the specified order. So there has to be an order. Here he goes galloping out. He's going to try and make up a little bit of time on his way out.
And each one of these obstacles obviously has a judge and a scribe, and what they do is the scribe has a diagram, and the judge tells him exactly what is going on, which gate the driver is going through. So if there's any contentious issue at the end of the day, there it is, and then David must radio back, do they?
Exactly. Here we have on course Chester Weber, our second driver of the day. Currently in first place after dressage.
And he comes in with a score of 38.78 in dressage. Because of the length of the course, it's actually about 17 kilometers long. Of course, we're going to see more than one team on course at the same time, so that'll be fun too, trying to figure out who's who. I'm glad you're here, David.
Thank you, Nancy. I'm glad as well. As the course builds and they put more drivers onto the course, we're going to see more action in each obstacle. Knowing Chester, this competitor, really well, he's just gathering his thoughts, trying to find a calm place, trying to get in the zone of how he's going to attack these obstacles and how he's going to try and maintain some sort of lead and try and stay in the hunt for a medal here. So this is going to be pretty interesting. Chester's also one of the only competitors on the circuit that uses shadow rolls on all horses, and he's a little bit of a technical person in respects to he tries to take out as much I guess variables for problems as possible. So if he thinks a horse may be afraid of a shadow, he'll just take the chance and put it on all of them.
And what David means by shadow roll, you'll see when we get more of a close-up of Chester's horses, you'll see a sheepskin or a fuzzy thing on their nose, and what that does is it avoids the horses seeing something right down in front of them, like a shadow or something like that. So hence the name shadow roll.
Exactly. It's also a little bit more padding on that nose. Some of these bits are curved bits, and they put a lot of pressure down through the cheek of that bridle and give a lot of added extra pressure to the nose. So this helps balance it off and give it a little bit more comfort there as well. Now you see him starting to get his game face on a little bit. From this far away, you can tell that the team's getting gathered and he's getting ready and set for the first obstacle.
Interestingly enough, there's such a long history of driving in Aachen, but this is the first time that Aachen has held a World Championship competition, so quite fun. There you see his dressage score, a very good score.
And here he goes.
And these four horses, David, the fronts are the leaders and the back are the wheelers. Is that correct?
That's correct, Nancy. He's going to try and steer these leaders up through these gates and these chutes and try and get these wheelers to push this or pull this carriage up these little embankments.
So how does it work? The back horses are doing the pulling and the front horses are doing the navigating? Is that what's happening?
Well, the front horses are leading the way, as you can see, and they're pretty keen to do so. And you can see Chester's pretty aggressive there, and he comes down, that carriage slides around the back a little bit. The wheelers have all the power, and they are pulling the carriage as best they can. He has a trace down. Looks like it's come unclipped on the near side outside wheeler.
So early on, what is that going to cause a problem, or what happens?
Well, he's going to be lacking power here from this horse.
And what does the trace do exactly?
Trace is the strap that connects the actual breast piece or the breast collar.
And you can see it there. That is really a liability because it's kind of hitting the horse on the leg and it's a distraction for him. So that's a huge problem. Would he do something like stop momentarily? There we are. He's going to do it right now.
He's going to do it now. He's outside the penalty zone, the obstacle zone, and his navigator can now get down without 10 penalties, and he's going to put it back on and clip it on.
I mean, this is totally like a NASCAR pit stop.
This is a NASCAR pit stop. Chester knows right now that he's just lost valuable time in that obstacle and maybe even cost him, a big part of the competition.
But he couldn't carry on the way he was.
He can't carry on, and he can't stop within the obstacle zone. Here's
Christoph Sandman is up next from Germany. He's right at the start, getting ready to go.
Yeah, Christoph's here, at the start, ready to go. He's a marathon specialist. He's really super fast in the hazards and known for being one of the best at what he does. Also drives on the German team and has been on the German team for many years, along with Michael Freund and Rainer Duen.
One of his leaders is saying, okay, let's go. I'm ready. He has the shadow rolls on as well. There's a very good picture of them there, the fuzzy sheepskin things across their nose.
look like they're pretty relaxed to me, which is a good thing at this stage in the game, because very shortly they'll be getting more upbeat. You can see they're wearing boots and bandages and quite a bit of leg protection as much as possible, that you know, if they clip or hit each other or interfere, that there is some protection on these legs.
I'm interested in these carriages, David. We've just seen the first three, but they're all a little bit different, and of course they would be different ones today than we would see in dressage, and of course tomorrow in the cones. How much would they weigh approximately?
These carriages are FEI weight, they're 600 kilos. The first three carriages we've seen are, interestingly enough, by three different manufacturers, and they're all of our similar type. We call these chariot back type carriages, where the navigator and the back stepper can actually get in tight behind the driver. The driver sits up alone in the center of the carriage, which is fairly new. We used to sit on one side of the carriage. Now we sit in the middle.
And actually, you can see there the driver has a seatbelt on, which I'm sure is needed once we get going.
Well, it's an interesting seatbelt. He's not really fastened to the carriage. He's only held in by it. So the navigator behind him is holding a long strap that's connected to that belt. So if there was a turnover or another problem, that navigator could let that strap go, so the driver would be released. If he was seatbelted in and the carriage flipped over,
right,
he'd be stuck.
Well, we're hoping we are not going to have to see that come into action today.
Hopefully not. Here we have Chester coming along underneath the trees.
What a beautiful day for marathon driving. It couldn't be nicer. Nice little breeze, the sun is out. The footing looks fantastic.
Well, the footing surprisingly looks really well, considering the last few days of competition. The footing looks really, really deep with a lot of compression, which can really make horses tired, you know, on a course like this. So it looks like it's really stiffened up nicely.
Keep in mind, these horses have already been through a trot phase at A, the walk phase at D. They've had a vet check. They've been passed and ready to carry on to E, which is what the phase is called now that we're in. So all in all, David, it must take a couple of hours, does it, to complete the whole marathon?
Well, from start to finish, you know, you're looking at over an hour, and a lot of, probably close to an hour 40. A lot of time and, you know, a lot of energy and adrenaline as it builds, too. It starts off kind of calm as they go through the A section and they get into the D section. The anticipation of the hazard or the obstacle section, it starts to build. Making a small bit adjustment in here on this leader before they go. Maybe something was stuck. Again, the navigators and the carriage members can get off the carriage during the actual sections, but cannot do it within the obstacle zone. Here's Chester coming into the sunflowers.
And he is aggressive, David. He doesn't hold back at all.
He's not holding back. He has metal on his mind, so he's going to try and get through this as quick as possible and leave the mistakes for the rest of the drivers, so to speak. So he's going to try his very best. He's got an amazing team, very, very maneuverable team, and very, very strong team as well.
And again, there are short and long options. We saw that in the three-day eventing where they would take a risk and cut a corner, and this is exactly what we're seeing Chester Weber of the U.S. do at the moment.
Yes, you can see him. He's pushing those wheelers constantly up on those leaders, and those leaders are trying to find the space that they need to go. And of course, Chester, if you watch really closely, is making big loops in his hands, pulling the lead rein to the left, pulling the lead rein to the right, and trying to set those leaders up in the right place that the wheelers will follow and the carriage won't get stuck. There's only 2.5 meters or 3 meters between some of these turns, so it's quite tight, and that's a nice turn right there that he's managed to pull through. And Chester Weber looks like he's getting ready to exit.
They must have to be extremely physically fit. I mean, all that pulling on the reins for an hour and 40 minutes or so on, they can't be just couch potato.
Well, the drivers are athletes, just like the horses, and they spend a lot of time working out, and a lot of them spend a lot of time conditioning themselves for this sport.
That was amazing. He did not waste 1 second in that obstacle.
He didn't waste a second. Here comes Sandman.
And another fast time for Chester Weber at obstacle 2, 70.48. It's time through the second obstacle.
Now you can see those back stepper and that navigator really hanging out the side of the carriage to make sure that that carriage stays on the ground. Christoph, again, a marathon specialist. You can see him really linking those turns and really making smooth transactions between the turns. And the horses are keen to it, they want it, and he can steer that carriage down through there pretty quickly.
I'm sure the horses want to get out of there as fast as they can too and get galloping.
Well, one of the things about a marathon horse or a marathon team that these drivers are looking for, they're looking for horses that are keen, that like this type of competition, that want to do this type of work, and they have to be able to accept it and want it, just like any of the other horse disciplines.
Interesting, I watched that one leader on the inside, the left leader, and he went to go through a gate, and it was incredible. He just said, you know, I don't think that's the right way, and he stopped himself, or I'm sure the driver did it, and went through the right gate. It was amazing.
Well, they have a lot of contacts. It looks like they're pushing constantly, but the whip, the driver does have some contact as to is the horse going left or right. Just the question is how committed he is to that turn, if he's actually going to go in the right hole or the wrong gate.
It's just a beautiful picture, even if they're not going through a gate, to just watch the amazing physical ability of these horses and how they're so in tune with each other.
This team, and as most of the teams that are here this weekend, are ready for the World, so you're going to find the best of the best. Here comes Chester into the Seaside Resort. That's a pretty high bridge. You can hear the harness and the bars, the lead bars that are connecting the horses to the carriage.
He really picked up his pace going across the bridge, and of course, David, this is a marathon, so they must have to pace themselves in different areas, such as a marathon runner, so that they've got enough at the end to finish.
Well, right now in the obstacle, with the adrenaline flowing and the pressure and everything else going on, so competitors are trying to go as fast as they possibly can. In between the obstacles is where they're going to try and conserve and regroup.
That's a great obstacle there, isn't it?
Yeah, it looks like the footing's really solid as well. You can see that, the horses aren't sinking too deep. It's drivable. The carriage isn't dragging. So, there's enough water in it to make it really interesting for the horses. And it looks like the drivability is really good.
This is the Seaside Resort, and aptly named.
He's looking for the F gate, and he's going to try and get out of here.
It just is incredulous to me these horses aren't spooky at all over the bridge, or the sound of that wood.
They're used to a lot of different sounds, to a lot of different colors and elements, so they're trained to it, and believe it or not, I think most of them like it. Chester has to be happy with his go there in that obstacle. Let's see here on the replay. You see the power of that left wheeler, how much power it takes for that horse to pull that carriage around that turn. Right horse is doing a lot of work as well, but that inside horse is really, really pulling it around.
Navigator,
you can see his
pointing
navigator
the way.
Exactly. Giving him a point, telling him where to go. See the big angle on the back stepper. He's making sure that he holds that carriage left. There's no chance for it to flip over on the right side.
See the way he's pushing that outside horse over. That's absolutely incredible.
So he's pulling him around a little bit to the left. He's giving a little bit to the right. Up they go. No foot on the brake there.
Country Canada's coverage of the driving marathon will be back right after this.
You You are watching exclusive same-day coverage of the 2006 World Equestrian Games from Aachen, Germany. This season, nobody gets away with murder.
Ian Hood, scientist, and I'm here to see that these experiments never happen again.
He specializes in physics and making himself unpopular.
These fetuses are the waste of an attempt at human cloning. What, like Dolly the sheep?
When science threatens humanity,
Aren't you supposed to have a warrant?
Only if you're hiding something.
one man will fight to save it.
Oh my God. Stupid man!
Patrick Stewart is scientific troubleshooter Professor Ian Hood in The 11th Hour. There's only one place to see it, and that's on CBC Country Canada.
What did you think you were doing?
I was trying to help.
Christoph Hartmann gerade auf dem Weg zum Rolex-Komplex.
And welcome back to Marathon Driving, and we are seeing at the moment Christoph Salmon of Germany, David Friedman here with me, giving me his expertise, and this is fabulous.
Yeah, Nancy, Christoph is really moving quickly through this obstacle. You can see him really pushing the leaders. The wheelers are really falling in nicely behind the leaders, and he's making tight, short turns and keeping the pace really fast and strong.
Christoph, of course, representing Germany. They have 3 members on each team, of which one person's score can be dropped after the 3rd day, or will be dropped, actually. I think it's the top 2 scores, is it not, David?
Top 2 scores will count from every event, so 2 from the marathon, 2 from dressage, 2 from the cones. Christoph with a really quick exit out of that obstacle as well.
There is a total time allowed of almost 37 minutes for E phase, which is all the obstacles or hazards, so they must be completed. The total of them must be completed within that time, 36.52.
Here comes Chester Weber into obstacle 4.
He's in 7th place after dressage yesterday. On top of the score of 46.5.
He's
Well in touch with the leaders.
Team's working really nicely, really strong through there. A little bit of a hang up here.
The theme of this obstacle is almost like the center of the triple combination yesterday. It's the same arches.
I think this is a little bit more difficult to navigate than it looks from above. I think on the ground there's a lot of eye height or eye level parts of this obstacle that make it look like it's difficult to get around.
Second man back behind the driver, of course, or the first man behind the driver is the navigator. He's actually telling Chester which way to turn.
He's making sure Chester stays on course and that he takes each gate and runs through each gate in the obstacle in the correct order.
So he would almost be the one that would walk the course more frequently so that he has it completely imprinted in his mind.
They all walk it together, Nancy. They spend a lot of time studying these obstacles, looking at the options, looking at the possibilities. If something would go wrong in a specific right turn, how would they exit quickly? Where would they make a quick change in course? And what would be the best route to do so? So they spend a lot of time with that.
Christoph Sandman from Germany, I believe.
In the Seaside Resort again. Christoph really capable of putting some quick hazard or obstacle times together. His horses run pretty smooth through the water, and he's fairly magical with the reins, as you can see. Pretty vocal as well.
He sure is. Can he actually, will the horses change direction from his voice, or does it have to be with the reins?
I think it's only with the reins, but I think he encourages them through the voice, so they have an idea what's going on in direction. It's more of keeping them forward, keeping them encouraged, keeping them moving quickly through the hazard and through the obstacle.
And of course, as we mentioned, there's a judge at each obstacle with a scribe that is writing down the exact pattern that he is taking. Back up over that bridge.
There's a little bump going up that bridge. It's popping those front ends of those carriages right off the ground, and at 600 kilos, that's a lot of weight to pop off the ground like that.
What is it like sitting in one of those, David? Is it really bumpy or?
Well, when it's smooth terrain, it's actually very smooth going, but when the terrain changes, it can be pretty jarring, and you need to take a lot of it in your legs and versus your upper body. They're pretty stiff, these carriages, to be able to do this type of work and be able to bounce off little corners and embankments and posts. So it can be an uncomfortable ride, but most of the time the adrenaline's so strong and the rush is so strong for these navigators that they don't feel any of it. Only the next day. Interesting in this replay, you'll see as he makes this last turn, the excitement really builds now for the team for the exit, and you can see as he shoots them forward to go up that bridge, they get excited to leave, and they know that they're close to the end of that obstacle.
And a huge turnout for the marathon today. You can see the spectators lining, of course, the area where the obstacles are.
One of the magical parts of Aachen is the unbelievable amount of spectators that they get out over a period of marathon day. And they just line these obstacles 10, 20, 30 people deep.
They're expecting about 50 four-in-hand drivers from 20 countries to take part in this year's WEG. What happens, David, now? They've gone through an obstacle, they're on their way to another. They want to keep up a good pace, but again, I stress the word marathon. Do they have to find some areas to rest the horses?
Well, I think they're trying to get these horses back in their right frame of mind after they've been razzed or been pushing really hard in the obstacles. They're trying to get them in a bit better mind frame. Also, the driver's trying to regroup, think about the next obstacle, think about his route, and stay focused as to the work at hand.
And is he talking with his teammates now? Are they saying, now remember, this is the one where we turn right then left, or?
There could be a reminder coming into one of these obstacles. A lot of time there's a lot of concentration just leading in, and they leave the directing to the essence of the moment.
What happened there when he stopped? Was that sort of a wrong turn, or?
Well, it looked like Chester's left leader there wanted to make a little bit of a left turn, and maybe he lost contact and had to stop and make the correction to go right.
Chester Weber, the leader after the dressage phase.
He's galloping these horses around the bottom of this hazard and trying to negotiate through these interesting colored posts or long sticks.
I mean, it looks like a maze to me. I'd have trouble finding my way on foot, and the fact that they can steer 4 horses in a carriage through here is just magical.
Well, he's doing a great job. He's got a lot of power in his team, and he's just showing examples now of why he's the U.S. national champion. Oops. A little bit of a hang-up.
Just a fascinating design of that obstacle, and of course it all looks the same.
You know, it's pretty early in the day here, so you can see that the spectators are just starting to build at the perimeter of this obstacle.
And again, a lot of vocal encouragement from Chester Weber, and off they go. I think it must be a relief when they finally come out the side and let them just be free for a while.
Yeah, it's nice to get these out of the way one by one. But knowing that there's more to come, they're not really in a position to back off the reins, so to speak.
When you start these carriage driving horses, do you start them one at a time, then put them with the team, and then gradually build up to 4?
Yeah, these horses, Nancy, all work single through team, so they all work single through 4. They do single work every day. A lot of them doing their saddle work as well. Then they're put to pairs, and then they're put to teams.
And the wheelers, they're the ones behind that do the heavy hauling. They're always just a little bit heavier usually, aren't they? Or obviously more well-muscled and...
Well, you got to have a horse in the wheel that's strong enough to pull these carriages around this course and be able to pull it through any type of up and down terrain or heavy footing or heavy going. They also have to want to do the job, capable of doing the job. The leaders have a little bit different job. They have to be a little bit keener and be more cat-like in respects to steering and want to be more attentive to the job.
I think in any discipline, David, the horse has to want to do it. There's so much you can train and the fitness regime and so on, but at the end of the day, the winners are the ones that really love their job.
Exactly, Nancy. These horses are all champion horses, and that's how they've gotten as far.
And Ana Cristina Guerrero of Portugal over the bridge.
So there's the clock there, 66.53.
That's a good time for this hazard. It's there's a lot of negotiating, a lot of turning. You can see on one of these last turns going in here, the horse just kind of scoots by that post, and then it steers the carriage in almost onto the wrong side, but somehow he manages to pull it out and drive out clean.
And I think the horses are breathing a bit of a sigh of relief. Beautiful countryside, and they've had quite a lot of rain in the last month or so, and the nice thing about it is the green grass. It looks beautiful.
Yeah, it doesn't look like there's been a lot of horses over this ground, but I think there has been over the last 12 days.
Well, when you consider it was the 3-day event course, and not to mention the 100,000 spectators that went along with it, it's taken a lot of abuse, but looks like it's handled it beautifully. And there's Christoph Sandman with his lovely team, relaxing a bit after that last obstacle.
He's just trying to get those horses back in frame.
Oh, and this looks like Fred Obernauer. What's happened here, David?
Well, it looks like Fred's got his left wheel stuck up against that post on that gate, and he's got his horses on one side of it. He's got both of his grooms down. He looks like he's pretty stuck.
So this is critical time-wise. The clock is ticking.
Clock is ticking. He's been in the obstacle for almost 3 minutes now. He's got 20 penalties. He's got his 2 grooms down on the ground, and they're going to have to make some sort of decision here what to do.
Could this possibly cause like an elimination?
Yes, Nancy, this could very well end up with elimination. We have to see what happens here if he decides to take his horses off, which it looks like he is possibly going to retire. His navigator and his backstepper are taking the traces off of the lead horses, and they're going to walk them out of the obstacle.
There's 3 or 4 competitors on the course at the same time. What happens? I guess they just back or hold the other ones up
exactly.
until
They give a timed hold in a specific spot. Here comes Christoph into this hazard, number 5. See, that's a little bit of a tight turn on a hill. Difficult.
Wolfgang Assendorf is the course designer today. He's from a small town near Hamburg, Germany, and it looks like he's done a very good job, David.
Yeah, the course looks like it's driving fairly open, so they can carry some speed through it. There's also some short routes and some long routes that these drivers can take. Also, it looks like there's a lot of carry in this course. Some horses slipping around on the top of this knoll that they have with this obstacle.
Do they put corks in these horses as the same as the jumpers and eventers?
Yes, they do. And these horses are fitted up as best as they can to have as much control and traction as they can. And that's it.
And out he goes, and you can hear the crowd cheering.
Nice job.
Great job by Christoph Sandman.
A little replay here of that turn. He's trying to slide that carriage around. He's got his foot on the front brake. You see how that carriage popped around on the back end. So he's trying to work all his aids, including his brakes on his carriage, to give him the best advantage to move that carriage.
You could actually see the wheels stop there when he put his foot on the brake. And off they go. Great, great.
See those navigators hanging off the back. The inertia coming out of those obstacles is unbelievable. It wants to flip those carriage over, over on the opposite side.
Thanks too. And there we see Fred Obernauer obviously sadly withdrawing from competition. That's too bad, but that's part of the sport too, David.
Exactly, Nance. It's always sad to see a good competitor or any competitor have to resort to this type of thing, but it's also for the well-being of the horses and in the name of continuing in the sport. So withdrawing sometimes isn't an option, and it is the best alternative.
Nice day for the crowd. We're actually during the course of the day we will see 6 previous individual gold medalists drive, so that's a great group of riders to come. Chester Weber back on track again. I'm assuming, David, he was held up somewhat from Fred.
Yeah, at some point they
Obernauer's
gave him
problem.
Exactly, Nance. At some point they put a little hold in, and Chester's going to have to pick up the pace here a little bit in this obstacle because he's sort of been walking around waiting for his time on course to start again.
And that must take a lot of the flow or the concentration of the horses away. Does that affect them?
That's exactly why I mentioned that he has to pick up the pace, because that little sabbatical or little time that they had to wait between him and the competitor before him could put a little bit of either a rest, which is a good thing, into these horses, or could pull some of the momentum and speed out of them. Doesn't look like it's seeming to bother him at all. You can hear him. Driving very smoothly. He's not banging into anything. Now he's getting ready to exit. Great job.
And off he goes. It was actually, David, you probably know this, back in 1968 when the Duke of Edinburgh, he was president of the FEI at the time, visited the horse show in Aiken and saw the four-in-hand turnouts, and he got the idea to then make it into a 3-day format such as the eventing.
You're absolutely right, Nancy. That's when they decided to form the sport of combined driving, formed after the 3-day event format, and the sport's been on the move ever since.
And interestingly enough, it's really followed eventing in as much as is this year the first year where they've actually reduced the number of things that they have to do in the marathon.
That's right. They've reduced the amount of sections that these horses have to drive over the period of the marathon, just to try and save some level of performance for the E section or the obstacle section at the end of the marathon. They found that these horses were doing a lot of work and a lot maybe of unnecessary extra work, and it was affecting the overall performance of the horses in the obstacles. So they've cut it back slightly, and it's proved to keep horses and teams sounder and more competitive in the obstacles.
Although this course is through the countryside, you can also see how close it comes to the town. Actually, those people in the top windows there, they have a great view, David, and this looks like Chester Weber coming into view.
He's just coming along the back of the track here, trying to get things settled down to finish off his last 2 obstacles.
So is this a relaxing time for the horses? Some are cantering, some are trotting, and so are they just kind of physically...
Well, to be honest with you, coming into this last obstacle, he's letting them do whatever they want. They want to gallop. He's saying, okay, let's gallop. Come on, whatever you want to do. You guys have been good boys. Let's just go. And here they are in the Arabian Oasis. And I think this obstacle drive is pretty interesting because there's sand. There's a lot of different types of footing, including grass, sand, water. And it's not easy to see behind these shrubs and these trees to find out where the next gate is.
Yeah, they're actually going in blind, aren't they?
They are driving blind, so they're driving this by memory. You see Chester really pulling around on that rein, trying to wiggle through here. Very nicely done. he's got an interesting turn in that water that has to come from the left round to the right. Now he's got to weave back through up into this sandy footing.
And then away they go. I think that's the horse's favorite part.
Yeah,
right
they
there.
love that. And there's no shortage of power
Go,
left in
go.
that team.
Go, go, go. You can see on the left-hand side that there is a medic or a Red Cross type of setup in case there's any type of unwanted spills or injuries of any kind. And off they go. And here we have Christoph Sandman back again. Germany, of course. 46.59 was his dressage score from yesterday.
Christoph now has a build going. He's been through a few of these obstacles, so he's getting ready to try and get this one out of the way. I think this obstacle is driving a whole lot more difficult than it looks, just because the depth of field is so difficult. You can't see to the next box because of all these white panels for these WEG logos. It's also pretty tight through here, and it can get confusing very, very easily. Let's make that turn for the C gate. Safety through C, looking for D. There's the D gate. Got some plan to go through backwards A. There's the E. He's chasing him.
Oh, and the crowd is so appreciative. Again, there are short ways and long ways to go through these gates, and he just did a fantastic job. Christoph Sandman from Germany.
Christoph does an amazing job just wiggling this team through this obstacle. He just is so handy on the lines and can just move these horses down through here and through these little gates and make these little turns. Fairly uncommon for four-in-hand driving to be able to sort of wiggle your way through like this at a very comfortable pace. He's not pushing over the tempo, but he's doing a great job with it.
So that looks like some, I'm not sure what that is, whether it would be looks too large for a piece of equipment. What do you make that out to be? I'm
Looks
not
like
sure,
they've done
but
some sort of repair in that water obstacle.
Chester Weber again.
Chester
United States.
coming into the last obstacle, the Eiffel Village.
Had a few problems at the first obstacle with broken equipment. Had to stop actually a couple of times. He made an adjustment to a trace that came unhooked and also an adjustment to his horse's bit. So I would think, David, he's pretty anxious to get this put away.
I think you're right. I think he's feeling the competition. It's the eighth obstacle, and he's driving fairly smooth. He knows he's got something good put together here. He knows he's ahead from dressage yesterday, and I think he's just thinking, hey, this is the end of the day. Let's keep these horses moving and try and get it finished up. He's doing a great job.
Of course, this is not only a team event, the team championship, somewhat like the Nations Cup we saw with the jumpers, but also they carry along again, like the other horses, an individual score for an individual medal.
That's kind of an interesting turn there. Not so easy for the horses to realize that they want to turn right, so they think they're going to exit out of the other chute. A little bit of encouragement.
And that's the magic word. I'm sure they're well tuned into that. Let's get out of here.
And a big sigh of relief for America's Chester Weber.
And this is Guy de Brouwer from Belgium, his all-gray team. And lots of vocal encouragement there, and you can see them just slip a little bit.
Yeah, this hazard looks like the footing's starting to loosen up a little bit.
And it's early times yet, so that doesn't bode well.
No, it doesn't. But I think that the footing's been fairly wet through the whole week, so it's going to have some effect on the drivability of these hazards and obstacles as it goes on through the day.
Nice team of grays.
Makes a good turn there for the D gate. This team's moving pretty quickly through here.
You can just see coming out of the water how that footing, David, is really getting
Loosening up.
wet.
Yep.
It's going to impact the other teams, I'm sure. Wow, they were about the fastest team I think we've seen, don't you, through that obstacle?
They've done a nice job on the exit. Maybe drifted out a little bit far into the water, but made a nice turn for the exit, so I'm sure they'll be happy with their time in that obstacle. He's happy he's holding up his hand, so he knows he did it well. Now you can see they're putting down some extra footing in front of that bridge.
They've used sand in all the rings throughout the competition, so I'm sure they've got lots of it on hand, and you can understand that would happen. Now this must be getting ready for the start,
This is the
or actually finish, I guess.
That's right, Nancy. This is the vet check at the end of the E section, and
What happens there exactly? What all is checked?
well, Chester's come in here. His times have stopped. The vets are going to come over. The official FEI vets are going to check these horses, and he's going to check his times and make sure that everything is correct and that these horses are recovering, and they'll start to cool the horses out.
Christoph Sandman again.
Christoph in the last obstacle.
That's the second clock ticking away.
This team is really attentive. They want to drive well. They want to move well through the obstacles. He's driving them well. You can see how close he gets to the outside of his turns and the inside of these posts. He's not leaving a lot of room to spare at the speed that he's traveling at. He just kind of looped around that right turn there, and that's very impressive.
That was a close call.
A little bit of a close call for that right turn.
I thought he was going to take that corner post out.
Oh, a little bit of a hang up. Now they're going to go.
That was one of the closest ones we've seen. So you can see how accidents do happen, that they can. I mean, they're trying to steer 4 horses of approximately 1,200 pounds each.
That's right, Nancy, and these carriages have a lot of weight, you know, at 600 kilos, so when they stop, they kind of stop dead, so it takes a lot to get them back rolling. It takes a lot of horsepower to pull these things and make sure that they get going again. Once they're rolling, it's a different story.
They're fine.
And it must be a strong team because he's touching the brake a little when he comes out of there, so.
It's an interesting use of the brake when you see the wheels stop, and the horses must feel that and think, well, why are we pulling? Beautiful countryside. Look at those trees.
Here's Christoph with the signature sheepskin that he sits on.
I don't blame him. I'd be on some kind of foam something.
Yeah.
So you can see the navigator looking at the clock, so they're timing themselves and through the finish.
They're checking their times to make sure that they're in time and on time, and they will mark their own time against the official scorecard.
That's a shot there of the finishing area.
Looks like they have a nice big area to cool these horses out and get them to walk around while the driver and the referee, or the driver and the judges get debriefed.
It's kind of a lengthy process, David, before you get a final score, because there are so many obstacles that have to report in. The vets have to send their report. This has to be the Netherlands. Koos de Ronde. Can't miss those orange jackets.
Koos is a marathon specialist and has proved time and time again that he's capable of putting down a great marathon score. Big, tall gentleman, maybe 6 foot, 6'2", 6'4", something like that, and can really reach forward and grab that lead rein and make a big loop and put in a short turn. Ranked 21st after dressage.
58.62 was the score. they're going to be very easy, David, to pick out cross country. We've been watching those orange jackets of the Netherlands in all the different disciplines.
The Dutch are great with the orange. They're easy to pick up along the way, and we're sure going to see a lot of them, I think, this afternoon.
And off they go. Coast Duran and Antonio, Major, Matador, and Orchidee. These 4 horses today. These would predominantly be warm bloods, David.
These are all Dutch warm bloods that Koos has. His family, his brother and his father, they all drive. Big driving family in Holland. And they have a lot of Dutch warm bloods that they break and train to drive. This Koos just trying to send a little message to his left leader. But I'm back here. A little bit difficult when you don't have the aids of your legs to reach forward and talk to that left lead horse. Just a little encouragement, let him know he's a good boy.
Well, I'm impressed with the attitude of the horses. They all look like they're really enjoying this. I mean, their ears are up and they just look like they're having so much fun.
Well, these are top athletes, Nancy. These horses have been competing all year on the circuit. They've been worked, they've been trained, and they want to do this job. So that's why they're in this team, and that's how they've gotten this far to the WEG. So they're very attentive and they're very ready for it. There's not going to be a lot of fighting with this type of horse and these drivers to get these horses to do this type of work.
And I'm sure, like every other trainer that's here, these drivers have conditioned the horses to be at their peak for September in the WEG.
If they're not peaking right now, they have been trying to get them to peak now, that's for sure. It's not easy when the circuit's all season long, but they've tried to get these horses to peak at the WEG.
Again, we'll see the horses coming out through the back of the storage area there.
I think we're hearing one of the other competitors in the background, possibly one of the Hungarians.
What sort of problems, or let me rephrase that, could these horses be used indoors for the obstacle courses as well as outdoors, or would that be a separate team?
Koos drives a mixed team of horses for the indoor event that he drives in the World Cup circuit in the winter. I'm sure a couple of these horses are in that team.
Letting them have a nice free gallop up the hill. That would be hard pulling with the 3 gentlemen and a carriage. Here we are, obstacle number 1.
Watch how handy Koos is here with these horses in obstacle 1. See just why he's one of the best at what he does. And that's a big obstacle.
David, I think he has a female navigator, so he should be okay.
I'm sure he's going to be just fine.
No wonder he's actually going so quickly.
Exactly. He's got no issues with power and no problems with his navigators on the back. Even they touch a little bit, they just kind of bounce off that post and come around the top. It's difficult to change from flat to up to down and just keep steering these horses because the length of the turnout gets longer and shorter, so your rein length starts to change. So it's difficult to gauge that.
And off they go. We will be back to carriage driving marathon on Country Canada right after this.
CBC Country Canada and CBC Sports are proud to present exclusive same-day coverage of the 2006 World Equestrian Games from Aachen, Germany.
Uniform found a dead man. Head caved in.
Lovely.
My name's on the wall, written in blood. It's a challenge. Wants me involved.
Tom Conti is forensic scientist Joe Donovan.
I'm not coming back. Just this one case, and I'm gone.
Forced out of retirement, he is faced with a daunting question.
According to this, your DNA was on the murder weapon.
How do you prove you're not a killer when all the proof says you are?
Donovan, you bastard! Hey, what is it with you, eh? What have I ever done to you?
There's no arguing with DNA, and the only place to see it is right here on CBC Country Canada.
Netherlands, of course, distinguished by those beautiful orange jackets. I really like the color. Coast Durand, this team of Dutch warm bloods, really beautifully through the first hazard.
Coast is keen and ready to go into the sunflowers. These hazards, obstacles are just burned in their minds. They know which way they're turning, which way they're going. They've got it really well mapped out, and he's just trying to find his way through in the quickest way. See the teams working together really well. Smooth turns. He's using all the obstacles. Just hit a knockdown there.
Now what happens there?
He'll get some penalty points assessed for automatically knocking down an element. It'll count as 2 penalties.
Which I guess, does that go into seconds added or something like that? Yeah.
Exactly. So they'll add that to his total time.
So that's a nice score of 63.63 seconds to negotiate that maze of sunflowers.
That little post was just fastened to this, or that little stick, red stick, was fastened to that post with a little piece of Velcro. They might show us a replay here of it dislodging and coming off. You see it there, hanging there. It's a red stick, and that leader just touches it with his side and knocks it off. 2 points added to his score.
That's so disappointing. So they're really not supposed to touch any of these obstacles at all, the wood part at all.
Exactly. That little turn was an option to the quick route, and when you take the quick route, you take the risk.
New team starting out. We'll see who this is in a moment. Van Hoof, Co Van Hoof from the Netherlands Antilles.
Yeah, he's moving through there pretty nicely. Horses are strong, and looks like he's got some power.
And again, it looks like a female navigator, and it also looks like a female backstepper.
This is a little bit of a tough turn coming up here uphill. It's so easy to get the horses to stall and to hang up on that post. You can see the backstepper just kind of slid the carriage a little bit to get it out of the way from hanging up on that post. Now he's got his brake on.
I'm assuming the white patches on these horses' flanks are a type of ointment, David, are they? So to avoid the rubs of the harness?
He might have some rub issues. He also might have had some problems in the past with horses hitting, and he likes it deflective there. So he's put a little bit of ointment on there for some deflection.
And what's happening here? Now what? They really got jammed up in that gate. That was Co Van Hoof, but we're back again to the Netherlands, to Coast Durand.
Yes, Nance, Seaside Resort. Coast is driving really forward and really fast in here.
Die Ziellinie ist, da muss er noch eine Ehrenrunde drehen. Beim Hindernis Nummer 7 in der arabischen Oase des Dubai Equestrian Komplexes. Das hat natürlich ein bisschen Zeit gekostet.
See him make his final turn here. see what he can do.
Und hier ist kurze Runde im Rolex-Komplex. Und im Hindernis Nummer 6 sehen
How's
wir
it go?
Stefan Schugenu.
So a great job at that gate for Kos.
Great job. He's kept good momentum and kept good speed through that obstacle, and looks like he's putting together a nice little marathon.
I think it's the female navigator, to be honest with you.
Must be. He's smiling, so she must have said something to him that is keeping him happy.
Well, we know men never ask for directions, so he's probably just following her cue.
You see the wheel bumping down that side of that bridge because of some traction bars fastened along there, and it takes a lot for a driver to drive at speed down that with 4 horses pulling it down in front of you. You got to be a little bit unconscious at this level.
Horse is probably appreciating some cooling water at this point in the course as well.
I think they love it. It's just have to make sure they don't stop in it and want to bathe. You can see those leaders just stepping right out of that water.
What beautiful shape these horses are in. I'm just so impressed with the look of them. They just look amazing.
And this isn't a small group of horses either. These are some pretty big horses compared to most of the horses on the circuit. Coast drives big horses, and they're not as easy to get through the hazards and through the obstacles as the smaller ones.
Like those wheelers. Look a good size.
Yeah, that right wheeler's a pretty big horse.
And Team Red, Stéphane Chuzano. We won't be able to mistake them, David, by their hoods.
Well, they have their French colors flying, and their clothing is set up just like the French flag, so we'll be able to find them along the way. He's the singles world champion, so he knows exactly what it takes to get through this course and compete at this level. He's done it with a single horse and has had a lot of success. Pushing through there, he's doing a really good job. Good forward position.
Unter Hindernis Nummer 4 führt mit 66,69 Sekunden Christoph Sandmann. Da ist jetzt kurze Runde hin unterwegs.
He's moving really quickly through here. You can see that the horses are really fluid. They're moving all the time. They're not stopping. Even when they look like they're going to go in the wrong gate, they end up going in the right gate. So he's got a lot of contact and a lot of speed, and he's got a different exit than everybody else has had so far. So he's got a different.
And they are off and running once they're out of that last gate.
He's chosen a different route here for the exit, and it looks like he may have some success with that.
Again, there are different options at all these hazards or obstacles. And again, the driver has to know his team and which is the best way for it. Netherlands again.
Here comes Kos in attack position, leaning forward. He's really given to that left turn. He's going to steer his way through here pretty quick. It looks like he's got good momentum in this obstacle. He's a lot tighter than all the other drivers we've seen so far as well on that inside left turn. 23 seconds. He's going to wiggle through there with those big horses. You can see him gathering up that rein for that short right turn. Whoop.
Uh-oh.
He's going to push him on through.
That is amazing. I mean, those horses were almost completely jackknifed, and he was able to get them straight again. That was incredible.
Somehow in there, he managed to be able to put enough pressure in that left rein to make sure that those horses knew which way to go, and I think it proved really well for him because he's put down a really good time in this obstacle.
57.9 seconds, so a great time for the Netherlands Coast de Ronde. There must have been a little equipment change there, David.
Some sort of an adjustment or something may have gotten stuck on the way out of that obstacle. Sometimes it's easy to get the leader rein caught under the tail, or something to get snagged in the bridle, or some other part to get turned or twisted. So sometimes after the obstacle, it's just as easy to hop off the carriage and get it adjusted.
And off they go for a little visit around the Aachen countryside.
Just like Carlo Mascheroni from Italy. Carlo, one of the more colorful drivers on the circuit. You can see by all his blue and red and green and white. Not having a lot of problems there, just driving really smoothly, gathering up some rain for a left turn. Looks like he's coming out pretty deep into the hazard zone or the obstacle zone.
It doesn't look like a huge variation in this initial obstacle.
We haven't seen a lot of variation in this obstacle yet, Nancy, but no,
And now we've got a major problem. What happens here? One's on one side, one's on the other.
He split the post with his leaders, and now he's got to try and figure this out. And somehow he's managed to get it this far, and let's see if he can get that leader sorted out before he has to put a groom down. So far, it looks like he's done
that's
it.
amazing.
That's
Those
unbelievable.
horses.
That's unbelievable. He has
But now,
broken.
is the equipment okay? Because something obviously is
He's broken some
dangling
equipment.
on that leader. Is that a driver error, David, that happened there?
That's a driver error. Somehow he lost contact with that right leader, and there was some confusion and signals that were sent, and one horse went on one side of the post, and the other horse went on the other side of the post, and now they're dangling a martingale. Not a major part of the harness, but they'll have to make a repair when they
And
come
do you
to the
think
finish.
he knows that that's actually happening? Because it's up on the leader, so it's a bit difficult to tell.
Well, judging by the way those horses turned around, Nancy, and they were looking at him straight in the eye, he may have had a good opportunity to take a look at that.
Lots of people going from gate to gate. I think this is Stéphane Chauzenou of France, of course, with the red.
63.78 seconds set by Christoph Sandemann of Germany.
Stephen's got a handy little team here. He's able to push them in these little openings and keep them fairly alert.
I guess it's kind of a catch-22 because you need some big horses and strength to pull these carriages. On the other hand, the smaller horses would be very handy to get in and out of the gates.
You're right, Nancy. The maneuverability of these horses seems to be a lot more prominent in the smaller ones, but they also lose power, so
Exactly.
it's a fine line. Of course, the less horse you put in the opening, the more space there is to drive.
And squeaking their
squeak
way
around
around there.
That left leader had a look at that opening. That looks like a tricky turn.
I'm not sure I can fit through there.
A little bit of a fight here, but he's still moving forward. That's
And off they go for a little breather in the countryside. How do you rate this course, David? I mean, it just looks amazing to me. Would you say it's a good course?
I think they're driving on a great course today. I think the course designer's done a really nice job at decorating this course and trying to do put some interesting elements and interesting turns in it. There's a lot of what we call pen-type hazards or fence-type hazards. Not a lot of natural elements built into these obstacles, but it looks like it's driving really, really well. And this hazard in particular has a little bit of a knoll in it, and it's not as drivable in the same manner as the other ones. Here's Coast coming now into Mikado.
That's Wolfgang Assendorf, is the course designer from just outside of Hamburg, Germany. He's done a great job today.
Hazard 5 here is pretty interesting because it has highs and lows, and it's built on this knoll, and depends on how far your team drifts outside that knoll, your time is going to get longer and longer and longer, so you want to keep it really tight inside. Coast looks like he's in World Championship form here. He's pushing hard and turning them tight.
Time is what it's all about, and accuracy.
That's a difficult turn that he's just pulled off there.
And the crowd knows it. You could just hear them.
That's a turn that a lot of the other drivers have gone outside and made a loop for to come back to get, and that's the kind of thing that'll win somebody a World Championship at some point.
So a great drive through the Mikado for Coast d'Ironde of the Netherlands. Just fantastic, and the crowd approved of it.
No shortage of power there as well, Nancy. Lots of power on the wheels.
Again, he's got those big horses, but then the smaller ones in front, so a little bit of strategy there, Dave. Coming up to the start. And I believe this is Karen Bassett starting out. Karen is just at the top of her game at the moment. She's the world's leading lady four-in-hand driver, and she's actually heading the British team this year. And interestingly enough, she drives all Trakehner horses. And one of them, Muschamp Kangaroo, is 22 years old, so David, he'd be one of the oldest ones in competition, I would think.
He might be one of the oldest ones out here on the circuit. Karen has had a lot of success with these horses and had a great show season starting off early in the season. She had great finishes at Windsor, and she's had probably one of the best seasons she's had in her career. Now she's on course here and headed off for the obstacles. I have Carlo Mascaroni at the Seaside Resort.
This is the gentleman that we saw in rather bad straits at his first obstacle, so he's obviously extracted himself.
Looks like he's made a little bit of equipment repair. He's taken off that piece that was hanging, so he's ready to go forward. Make it through this one.
Die zweite Dame des heutigen Tages mit der Nummer 21, Karen Bassett.
These turns are really tight in here, and it doesn't appear to be making a problem for the drivers, but he's stuck up in the trees a little bit.
So David, he's probably lost an awful lot of time on course. He had a problem at the first obstacle. He's obviously had to stop to fix some equipment, and now here.
He's had to put a loop in. When he drove those horses, tried to drive them into the water directly after that turn. They shied at the water and headed back up the bank. Now he's stuck as
So
well.
is that what we would call a refusal almost in show jumping? When you say he had to make a loop, he had to turn again and...
Exactly, had to make another attempt at it.
And that would be penalized really only by the time taken to readdress it.
Exactly, Nancy, and it is penalized because it's a cumulative time. And there's a lot of reasons why that happens. It's not that these horses don't want to go in water. He could have sent a mixed signal, and the horses could have thought they were on a right turn and gone to go back up the bank to get another gate. There's a lot of different reasons that could have happened.
It's such an exacting sport because you think of dressage or jumping, you really have to be in tune with one horse and you know, get something happening there. And here this driver and his assistants really have to have 4 horses.
Not a great sport not to have confidence in your whole team
Yeah,
in the direction that they're going to move.
There would be no I in team for this sport, that's for sure.
That's why they call it team driving.
So this has taken him a long time to get through this particular obstacle. And his horses, are they tiring? He looks like he has to be really asking them to move along.
I think they're starting to tire a little bit, but he's made it through at a minute 32, and he looks fairly enthused and encouraged, so we'll be on to the next obstacle.
Great shot there of the horses coming up over the bridge with their very colorful bandages.
No shortage of color on this team,
No.
Nancy. They just squeeze through that hole.
There really is barely room for two horses at one time to go through the size of these obstacles.
Those turns are tight, and they're meant to be tight, and they're all doing it, but there isn't a lot of room.
Great facial expression there. Those colorful items, as David pointed out, are for protection. The boots on their feet stop them from cutting their feet, and the bandages, of course, on the legs. And here's Team Netherlands again, coaster on. You know, that 1 liter is a good size, too, on the right.
Coast doesn't seem to have any shortage of power anywhere in this team. They're all strong, pulling into the last obstacle here. Now you can see the crowd starting to gather is getting larger and larger. A lot of turning left, right, very confusing. He's doing a great job handling those lines through those
It fascinates me how one can go the right way and not the other, and I swear it says, you're going the wrong way, would you catch up?
Well, it's so difficult because when he's making a right turn, he has all the reins in the right hand, and then he needs to switch over to the left hand, and he has to let out enough from the right hand to make it happen from the left, and there's a lot going on
So the right
at one time.
hand, yes, the right hand knows, and it takes a couple of seconds for the left hand to catch up, and away they go. This is the happy time of the obstacle when they get to gallop out.
And a great job for Coast. What's interesting is these horses have the patience to wait for that signal through those lines.
What would the average age be of these horses? They can't be young, I wouldn't think.
I think he keeps most of these horses under 10, somewhere in that age group. A little bit of a mixed signal there. Then that left leader says, uh-oh, I better catch up.
Somebody's dragging me forward. I don't have any choice.
Well, when their partner heads off in another direction, it's either going to be right or wrong. So
especially when he's
encouraged.
bigger, and that's a big horse, that leader on the right.
I'd imagine that he's a little bit more powerful and is capable of pulling that other horse over a little bit. For sure, that's his marathon specialist leader. So.
Some Hungarian supporters there waiting for their team.
Hungarians in all their glory. They're going to be out competing.
And I think this is Karen Bassett again with her team.
Oh, Karen getting ready to come into the obstacle.
Karen actually won the crucial selection event for the British Horse Force at the Sandringham Trials in July. It's just past July, so a good win for her.
And she's ready.
David, that's not a big team.
It's not a huge team, but they're a long team. She does a great job driving them.
Karen's 42 this year.
She's driving those horses about as handy as any of these other drivers, so she's going to be really competitive in this obstacle. The Sunflower obstacle has a lot of turns, a lot of switchbacks, and it's hard to drive it short. She's driving it short and tight.
Now, what do you mean by driving it short and tight?
She's not taking a lot of time to get between the gates that are lettered, and she's not making any extra turns or going a long way to get to them. She's driving them all directly from A to B to C to D, and they're short and tight.
She's not messing around, and there's a picture of that red stick on the post that
Coast knocked off.
That he lost 2 penalty points for, and she wasn't anywhere near it, so great job.
You see her pace hasn't changed much. She stayed steady through the whole obstacle, so that's what builds a good fast hazard or obstacle time.
And off they go. Karen Bassett representing Great Britain. Great job. She's got a rein tucked under her tail there, and that needs to come out.
Off they go.
That's one thing you don't want compromised is the steering. And a new team on board. Josef Doberitz.
Yeah, Joseph is a Hungarian driver, does a great job. Another marathon specialist. He's putting in some pretty tight turns here. You can see that footing's getting deeper and deeper, Nancy, at the bottom of this #1 obstacle. They get out the sand.
Yeah, and I'm glad you pointed that out, because I think the water obstacle as well, you're going to be, I think you'd be in a little bit better shape if you had an earlier draw today.
I think you might be right. Look at this turn and pull it around that post. Whoa. Some excitement and energy in this team.
And this team is Cinco, Spelho, Neapolitano, and Segal. The 4 grays. Uh-oh, he's almost split between. Come on there, boys.
He's done a good job in that turn. Since it was a stall, he ended up pulling it off really, really well. These Lipsoners are really strong and really attentive.
Very good job. Josef Doberitz, Hungary. And here we're going to see that tight turn, and I think he has to almost even reverse it. You can see his right foot on the carriage brake there, and what good use he makes of that, David.
He didn't want to overshoot that turn, so instead of saving a loop, he just backed that team up a little bit and pulled them left, and they managed to pull it off.
And again, by loop, David means he didn't want to have to go around another time.
And Coast is finished. Here's Karen.
And again, this is the water obstacle that I think is going to get really slippery.
I think the footing is changing here. You're right, Nancy, that the Seaside Resort, it's all over the place because they have the water, they have the grass, they have the sand, and they have the wood to contend with on the bridge. It's a lot of different elements in one obstacle for this team or any team to deal with. Plus, a lot of it happens inside the water. So there she goes, pulling them around to the left.
She's coming in with a dressage score from yesterday of 80.13, so she'd like to make up some good points today.
She missed a right turn, so now she has to double back through that D gate, but didn't waste a whole lot of time doing it.
Now, would that be a navigational error or just missed it with the horses?
Just looked like that right leader didn't come tight enough to pull through that D gate, so she pulled him around to the left and just continued on for it.
Back up over the bridge.
It's a tough exit coming up over that bridge because the horses have been pulling and working really hard in the obstacle, and then all of a sudden you have to go up over the bridge.
And there's obviously an equipment problem here. The clock is stopped because she is outside of the obstacle, but David, the overall clock is still going, is it not?
That's right, Nancy, and they have a leg over the trace here, so they got to fix it really quickly here and get back underway. But the overall clock is running.
And the trace is exactly what? How is that?
Trace is the piece of harness that connects the horse to the carriage. So each horse has 2 traces that come back and connect to the carriage. So there's 4 on the wheelers, 2 on each horse, and 4 on the leaders, 2 on each horse. So it's easy because they're long straps, as you can see here in the slow-mo, for a horse to step up and hook it with his foot and get inside there or step out of it. And it's low down so it can be connected to the wagon or to the carriage.
So that corrected. Karen Bassett of Great Britain on her way.
Great shot of her coming over the bridge.
So correction to the marathon scores that we let show.
Hungary again.
In the lead.
Josef Dobrovitz, I think that's probably pronounced.
Yeah, he's not wasting any time here. He's pushing forward. He's trying to get through this obstacle as quick as possible. I think the size of some of these obstacles are playing with these drivers' heads a little bit. It's a lot to navigate. It's a lot to think about. There's a lot of gates involved here, a lot of short turns.
Remember, each gate has its own clock, and there's also an overall time. So these drivers have got a tremendous amount on their minds.
They're doing a lot in the time that they're on the course now.
They sure
They're
are.
working really hard out here.
Again, team points are up for grabs as well as the individuals, so medals in both categories.
And that's about as good a turn as you're going to see in that obstacle.
Team of Lipizaners. Are they common in driving? You think more of dressage when you think of them?
They're very common in driving and bred for driving in Hungary for years and years and years. And there's a lot of long lineages that have made great driving horses over the years. Here's Karen again.
The happy time for the horses, I'm sure.
Karen has a lot of focus right now. She knows she's been through a couple of obstacles. She's doing a great job. So she's coming in here into this dome obstacle, and she knows that she has to keep this momentum and this flow going to be able to put down a good marathon score today. See that tight turn to the right? That's about as good as that turn's going to get for her. That's a really, really good turn for anybody to be able to negotiate.
Karen has the team with the one horse, Muschamp Kangaroo, who's 22 years old. She's actually driven Roo in all 6 of her World Championship appearances, so that's a great, amazing feat to keep a horse in this type of physical ability sound and able to compete, David, that length of time.
I think you're right, Nancy, and I'll tell you, the drivability and the mobility of this team is one of the handier teams we've seen out here today.
70.62 her time at that gate. This is, I think, Tucker Johnson of the U.S. getting ready to make his start.
Tucker, many-time U.S. national champion, and I can see he's in his typical relaxed form just before the start of the marathon. He's just trying to gather up all his thoughts there. They have the American chef de keep, Ed Young, with some notes in his hand, and he's just standing by the start.
Tucker coming in with a very good dressage score yesterday of 43.26, so they'd like to keep the penalties down in the marathon phase.
Here's Joseph Dobrovitz again. Seaside Resort. And knows he's had a good run at that hazard and lots of power up the bridge.
Galloping over the bridge in obstacle 3, Joseph Dobrovitz on Hungary. Und der große Jubel galt Josef Dobrovitz aus Ungarn, der gerade über die große Brücke den Rolex-Komplex wieder verlassen hat.
You can just see the power of these horses pulling that heavy carriage out of the water.
I love the water splashing, Nancy, how the feet come directly out of there. It's just so much energy and so much excitement.
Country Canada's coverage of the carriage driving marathon will be back right after this.
Und auf die Reise geschickt.
You are watching exclusive same-day coverage of the 2006 World Equestrian Games from Aachen, Germany. He knows where you go. He knows what you do.
Ah, Vincent Gallagher, PI and bin dipper. So how's business?
Good.
Yeah?
He makes your business his business.
Gillian sends her love.
You stalking me, Vincent?
Stalking, wooing. It's a fine line, isn't it?
Private investigation is about to become a personal crusade.
Thought we'd lost you there for a minute.
Yeah, I'm back. Definitely back.
Ray Winstone is Vincent. There's only one place to see it, and that's on CBC Country Canada.
Training, of course, got underway yesterday. We'll be having a look at that tomorrow. The team competition, the first individual competition as well, day 14. The final individuals, and of course the medal ceremonies for that, so that's going to be a lot of fun. Karen Bassett, I think. David's still on her way to the next gate.
Looks like Karen's getting everybody ready to go here for the next hazard. Little duck under the tree there. That's a low-hanging branch. Still see some of that cross-country obstacles.
They're beautiful, aren't they? They're just so nicely decorated.
A little bit hung up here. Making a directional change.
The Mikado.
You can hear the crowd encouraging her on. You can see that's a fairly steep,
It is.
steep embankment that they're going up. This obstacle drives, it has a lot of carry. What I mean by carry is that the horses want to seem to go farther and farther away from the obstacle components as they get as they come down off that bank. And the farther they get, the longer the time's going to take for them to get through it.
And you can just see the ruts starting to form on that turn too, David. So I think as each progressive competitor moves along, is that footing going to get heavier and more difficult?
It's going to get heavier, it's going to get thicker, it's going to get deeper, and as long as they have dry weather, they should be okay. If it turns to rain, then things could change here.
And we have seen lots of rain in Aiken this week. And off Karen goes.
Here comes Tucker Johnson. It's a number one. Tucker steering and directing his team.
Tucker narrowly missed out of a medal at the last WEG from Hobo Sound, Florida, so he's a long way from home.
Narrowly missed the individual bronze, but did manage to capture the team silver with Chester Weber. Doing a great job here. There he goes.
And quite a good time coming through there. Chester Weber representing the United States. It's really interesting, David, hearing them talk to the horses and almost giving verbal instructions.
They try and keep these horses moving, so they try and encourage them as much as they can through every aid that they have.
Rainer Dune from Germany up next.
Reiner's driving on the German team this year with Michael Freund and Christoph Sandmann. Longtime veteran of the German team and from a long lineage of carriage drivers. His father was national German champion many times. Here comes Tucker.
These would be mostly warm blood horses again, would they not?
Tucker drives a mixed team. Most of these horses are German warm bloods.
Germany has such a history of breeding not only jumpers and dressage horses. And it's interesting to see some of the crossover bloodlines, and Lady Killer is one of them. And David, when I was looking at some of the breeding of these horses, he shows up. So is there a specific driving breed, or are they working on that?
Well, I think they're working more towards a driving type breed as the sport progresses and demand increases. There's more demand on driving horses, and they're trying to get some type of horse suitable for driving that they can sell into the driving barns to the drivers.
Well, especially now that North America has become so taken over by driving. I know the town that I spend the winter in, South Carolina, in Aiken, there's just a huge contingent of driving horses that winter there.
Exactly, so there's more demand for them. Tucker Johnson's doing a great job out of number 2. Here's Rainer Dune.
Rainer again. It's always so much fun to be coming home and see a four-in-hand carriage being driven down the street. It's like a step back in time.
That's for sure.
And these wheelers look big as well. This looks like quite a big team.
This is a pretty rangy team. They're a big group of horses. His family's always bred these horses, and they're a pretty big group. He likes a lot of power in the wheel. He comes from an area in Germany that's quite sandy, and they like a lot of horse.
So he'd like a lot of power.
That's right, Nancy.
And off they go. And looking at these carriages, there are, I'm assuming, 3 different types for the 3 disciplines, but this one specifically must be really sturdily built to withstand all this bumping around.
Well, these are all metal carriages, Nancy. They're using some mixed metals, mostly steel or chromoly steel, mixed in with stainless steel. They're all metal on disc brakes, and they're using usually motorcycle disc brakes for these carriages. Really high quality welds, and really high tech in respect to the spring systems and into the steering systems that actually steer those front wheels. They come around the back of the stadium here. Here comes Tucker Johnson. Small adjustment of his cap.
That all-important cap. I'm not sure I've ever seen him without that cap when he's driving.
He normally sports a cowboy hat, so today he's got the lime green cap on.
Heading up to the Seaside Resort with the bridge.
One thing about Tucker, he's not afraid to go fast.
Through the Freewind complex. Und Tucker Johnson ist gerade im Rolex-Komplex. Und viele gute Zeiten haben wir bisher schon gesehen.
Little verbal encouragement.
He needs to coach these horses down into the water and through this obstacle to make sure that they keep their speed so that his overall obstacle time will be quick. So he's spending some time trying to encourage them and make sure that they move forward.
It's just such a nice sound hearing that carriage with the horses going through the water.
He's doing a really nice job here. You can see the water splashing up on the back of the carriage. Backstepper is certainly going to get wet in this obstacle.
I suspect that's the least of his worries with his job today.
At this point, Tucker's not worried about what's going on behind him, only what's going on in front of him.
This is a pretty handy team, David.
It's a handy team, and Tucker's got some of the best hands in the business. He's got hands of gold for driving, and that's how he's stayed and competed at this level for over the years, many years.
And that was a quick time through that gate.
Very quick.
That great shot again of all that horsepower coming up and over the bridge. It must be a great sound.
It's a great sound, and you can feel the power from the ground. There's a great turn as well. You can see there's not a lot of space. Got a little bit of a knockdown there. If you saw that
red
post come off, looks like he hit it with the right side of the right leader's lead bar. That'll be 2 penalties. Added to his total hazard time.
At the water, 89.29, 6th fastest so far through the Rolex complex.
You just see the effort involved in getting these horses to turn and just make sure everything's right at the right time. And there's a young driving enthusiast coming over to get just a bit of a closer look.
Aus Großbritannien die zweitbeste, ganz genau. Im Hindernis Nummer 7.
Joseph Dobrovitz trying to loosen up.
Joseph from Hungary, representing the Hungarian team.
This team of Lipizan is fairly willing to do this work. They don't seem to have much of a problem pushing through these obstacles.
They were pretty fast through there. They are as handy as can be, David.
Yep, they look like they're really handy today, and he's not having a problem pushing them into these little short turns. It's difficult to wiggle around through all these little triangles. There's not a lot of space between them. You can hear him coaching and encouraging his leaders to move ahead.
I think that'd be difficult. You couldn't send a team like this or sell a team like this to America unless you knew how to speak Hungarian. You wouldn't be able to talk to them.
Well, I think that's the easy part, Nancy. I think that whatever nation your horses come from, then you can learn to speak that language to those horses. I think it's fairly limited to maybe left, right, go.
I think that's Rainer Duen from Germany, I believe. Yep. That's quite a nice looking trot on that outside leader.
Yeah, that left leader's got a lot of natural ability in his trot, a lot of high foot flight. See the little tap on the on Reiner's left shoulder from his navigator. He's given him a little bit of a hand signal, tap him right, tap him left, which way to turn to keep him focused. Sometimes touch is easier from a navigating standpoint than actual words.
Somebody shouting at you, losing your
You
concentration.
can see how tight he's taken this inside turn. He didn't put the horses up on the bank. He's kept it inside in the water.
And then that wider shot as well, David, I'm assuming that's the fence judge that you saw sort of crouching down, making sure he's getting the right pattern that Reiner is taking.
That's right, Nancy. He's watching, and now he's successfully through the D gate. And he's going to post himself a good time that will help his accumulative time for this marathon.
Again, before they get to E section, which is what we're watching now, they've been through A, which is the trot section, then they've been through D, which is the walk section, and a mandatory veterinary check.
Now you can see the crowd building, especially when we put a German here into a home favorite into these obstacles, and now we're getting some real cheering in the background. And that'll make the driver feel really good.
I think the horses recognize it too. I think they like to hear their fans and get some adrenaline from it.
I think you're right.
That's a tight squeeze.
It's a tight squeeze. It's a hard left turn, and he has to put that loop in to immediately turn right. And there's not a lot of time because you have this down turn off this bank, and the team gets longer, so you have to let out enough rein to pull that turn off, and that's not easy to do.
Good picture there of Reiner Duen from Germany.
And he knows he did a good job in that last obstacle.
Got a pretty nice smile on all three of them.
And he's resting his right hand, so he's going to drive a little bit one-handed just to try and relax
I was
and get
just,
ready.
David, looking at the bits, and they're quite a bit different than jumping horse bits, and they seem to have like slots, and different drivers have their reins in different places. What's the significance of that?
Well, they're using a variety of different curb bits, and you see some Liverpool bits, and you see some Buxton bits, and you see some different elbow bits, and they have adjustments for rein pressure, so they can move those
So the lower the reins go, the more pressure they can put on the horse.
That's right, Nancy, because it builds in a combination of curb pressure, nose pressure, pole pressure, which are different pressure points on the horse's head. Tucker's moving here well through the zone.
I was just going to say, I haven't seen him put his foot on that brake.
Yeah, Tucker doesn't put his foot on the brake very often. He's trying to push these horses and put in a good marathon and try and keep a good result for the rest of the show. His team's working pretty handy today, too. Very experienced.
And a great job in 65.90.
So just under 66 seconds in that obstacle, which will be added to his total time for the section. And Tucker's got another successful obstacle under his belt.
Nice shot of the area as usual. David, we were just saying the one thing about this sport that's difficult, and again we can equate it with eventing, is we can't really tell you who's in the lead at the moment because not everybody has started, but just keep in mind that the time that it takes to get through these gates are converted to penalty points at the end of the day.
That's right, Nancy. All 8 obstacles will be added together for a total time and then converted to penalty points. So the obstacles are scored separately than the section that these horses are and these teams are traveling on. So there'll be a section time and an obstacle time. So the obstacle time will be individual obstacles 1 through 8 added up and then converted to a total time.
And I'm glad I don't have to do all that conversion. So that's what they have computers
We
for.
have Mr. Dobrovitz a little bit excited to leave the obstacle.
Absolutely.
Standing up,
Beautiful
getting the crowd
day.
going.
Im Mercedes-Benz-Komplex im ersten Hindernis haben sich die Leinen verfangen im ersten Element.
Got his back stepper really leaning out far.
Strafpunkte zu schonen und nicht Strafpunkte zu kassieren. Die Gurken dürfen ja nicht absteigen.
Well, it appears Tucker's lost his cap. Here in the Mikado.
It's just an amazing design. I can't imagine sitting down to design driving gates. It's just such an intricate thing.
Whoop. A little bit of a hit. Tucker trying to encourage this team to stay in form.
And off they go out of the Mikado. Reiner again.
Reiner in the octagon.
Germany, of course. See, it's an all-male crew.
Reiner's having a really smooth go here. He's not getting a lot of speed, but he's getting enough carry that these horses are trotting fairly smoothly through this obstacle.
The appreciative German fans. You certainly know when the home crew is there. People are probably wondering why he's not galloping through the finish, David, but there is an optimum time allowed today, and that's 36:52. So this probably means he was a little bit under that, and
that's right, Nancy.
needed
There's an
to slow
optimum
down.
time, which is a maximum time of 36:52 for this section, and he has a 2-minute window that he needs to pass through, and he may have been just inside that time, so he collected up the horses, made them trot a little bit slower, so he would be over the minimum time allowed.
So it's very much like a car rally of sorts. You want to be at the right place at the right time, and they set an optimum time so they don't speed with the cars. The same here with the horses. They don't want the horses galloping flat out between gates and being exhausted. So it's pretty tricky, David, I should imagine, trying to get within that optimum time.
Well, they know how to pace themselves, and they know there's markers along the course that tell them what kilometer they are at, so they have a pretty good idea of their timekeeping, and they're watching their time and their clocks as they go, so it's not as difficult as it may appear. But still, it's necessary timekeeping that has to be kept. Here's Tucker, a little bit of a problem. Now he's sort of stuck in this gate, and now he's going to have to make a loop.
So he was trying to get inside that gate and couldn't, so now he's got to take the extra time.
He was trying to make a left to
go
go down
around
through that D gate, and now he's gone on the outside.
Again, costly seconds added to his total for this gate, which will be converted into penalties. And I'm sure we have everybody confused now.
Well, his total obstacle time is going to be a little bit longer than he wanted it to be, just because of that mistake. But overall, still a good obstacle for him. It'll be added to his total 8 obstacles for time for his total marathon score. Here's at the start. Gert Schrijvers from Belgium. Morgan Friesian, or Arab Friesian, crossbreds.
That's an interesting cross. They certainly would get the handiness from the Arabs, I guess, and the power from the Frisians.
They get a lot of power from the Frisians. They get a lot of endurance from the Arabs. Reiner's having a great marathon today. Team's really, really handy. And you can see he does this driving and steers them through these obstacles without a lot of effort. He's not working overly hard or pulling really hard on these lines. He's just steering them and directing them through.
And that would indicate a really well-trained team, I would think.
Yeah, this team is really, really seasoned and really well trained. Looks like a couple of these horses are getting hotter as the day goes on.
I was just going to mention that they, this one leader on the right-hand side, and the wheelers, of course, doing all that work pulling.
I was getting excited to exit. Whoop. There he goes.
So that's a very good time from that gate.
Yeah, Reiner posts a great score in that obstacle. Sure it'll contribute well to his overall marathon.
Tucker again. United States.
Found his cap somewhere along the way now. Got his green cap back on. I can hear him calling his horses, using individual names, trying to keep them all galloping through this water. Tucker moving fairly quick through this obstacle.
Tucker is a 6-time U.S. champion.
Yeah, Tucker started in the sport of carriage driving back in the 80s and brought home a gold medal for the U.S. pair team.
So
in
here
91.
we see some current standings. Sandman up top, of course, Dobrovitz second, Duran. And again, not everybody has, or they may have all started now that we're getting the standings board up. I think that's Reiner coming into the Arabian Oasis. A little cooling off period now for his horses.
Yeah, Reiner just trying to steer this team through these obstacles and try and get the rest of this marathon finished up and keep his times good in these obstacles and without getting hung up. It seems like the horses have enough power and it seems like they're not tired, but they are working.
This will maybe cool them down a little bit, David.
Hopefully. That right wheeler certainly has enough power to move this team. Now we have Tucker Johnson coming into the Eiffel Village. See how just narrowly the carriage passes by that post.
Close call.
Very well calculated, very well driven.
Does a driver have a favorite carriage or one that they're used to, and they sort of like driving your own car, you're used to the way it handles? And
Nancy, this is just like any other sport. These drivers have their favorite equipment, their favorite carriages, their favorite horses. They're also very superstitious of what they do before the event, what they eat before the event, what they wear during the event. and you find a lot of them they do the same thing over and over again because of those superstitions.
Well, we spoke about that through the dressage a little bit, about what some of their superstitions were. So yeah, I think that's universal in anything.
I think you're right in sport, Nancy. Tucker doing a great job here, maneuvering his team.
Very good job through there for Tucker Johnson of the U.S.
No time to waste. He's moving as hard as he can and as fast as he can. So is Reiner doing over here.
With this team of 4 horses, when they're at home, would they keep them together? Would they be stalled together and put out in the paddock together, or do they try and keep them as a group, or is that important?
Well, I don't think they're brothers per se, but they stay in the same stable, and they share a training schedule with a group of others as well. So, and they could be used for different jobs as well throughout the.
And they do switch. They have a spare horse that they can switch amongst the team too.
They do switch, Nancy, and there are some of these horses that work in different positions in this team for different parts of the event. That right leader of Tucker's might be in the left wheel tomorrow for the cones.
Oh,
very
now that I didn't understand. I thought if you were a wheeler, you were a wheeler, and you can see him. He must have been again under the optimum time, so really having a slow approach to the finish line.
And a really great greeting from teammate Chester Weber, meeting him on his arrival at the end of the section. And Tucker looks relieved. Now we have Kurt Shrivers again in the Sunflowers. A little bit of a knock. It's a pretty quick little team. They can move through here at a pretty good pace. Interesting note here that Garrett is driving from the right side of the carriage, which is the traditional side of the carriage, where a lot of the drivers today are driving now from the middle. So there's been an update in these carriages the last few years, and some drivers have decided they want to drive from the middle, and some drivers have decided that they want to drive from the traditional right side. And normally what it does is it builds a little bit more confidence for a left turn, that you're not sitting on the right side of the carriage, and it'll want to turn over on the right side. Also helps the keep some pressure off your near horses, which are your horses on your left side.
I think this is Reiner, is it, coming to the
Reiner must be a little
line?
bit early, so he's walking his team.
Again, it's such a different area of the sport. You always think when the finish line is near that horses should be galloping, but in this case, there is an optimum time.
Drivers. Yeah, right leader a little hesitant about going up the bridge.
We should point out, David, that Canada doesn't have a team representing us this year. What is the reason for that?
Well, I think, Nancy, it's an economies of scale type thing. You know, we don't have the depth in driving in Canada that we do in other nations in the world.
As far as events to compete in?
As events to compete in and drivers as well. We have a very strong singles team that we're going to field this year for the Singles World Championships. But when it comes to teams and pairs or any of the multiples, very, very difficult. Even on the pony front, it's difficult.
Again, it is really a relatively new sport to North America. It has such a long history in Europe, but
it's relatively new. Really, driving didn't take off strong in America until the early 80s. So it is relatively new.
But it has jumped ahead in leaps and bounds in the last 4 or 5 years, and I think a lot of that is due in part to the carriage driving racing at the Royal, and people have become so fascinated by that they're more interested in the sport.
Carriage racing at the Royal sure has brought a lot to the sport, and it's brought the exposure to a lot of people. So we've been happy to been able to do that over the years.
You could just see that backstepper there shifting his weight to make sure that the carriage got down off the bridge properly. So he's
trying to keep a low center of gravity as they come down that bridge, because he doesn't want to get his weight too far ahead of that back axle, and he'd rather keep the weight behind the back axle. So that's what he's doing when he sits down like that.
So he's almost braking going down.
He's just keeping the weight in the correct spot on that carriage, so it doesn't build more momentum and start pushing those horses down that embankment.
You just see how muscular these horses are. They're in fantastic shape, but there is not an ounce of fat on them. It's all solid muscle.
A lot of definition, you're right.
Oh.
They move so well, too.
That's a beautiful team. Got a new entry coming on now.
This is Daniel Bergler from Switzerland. Daniel, one of the great showmen, driving what we call a checkerboard team.
Sure is.
Doing a great job here. Really smooth, really quick. Everybody seems to be having trouble with that one turn. This is a little bit of a tricky one too.
Why do all these carriage horses have blinkers? And some of them, they almost look like they're full blinkers, and some are almost a half. Why is it traditional that they have blinkers?
Well, it's traditional that driving horses wear blinkers or blinders, and what we're seeing here is we're seeing a couple of different varieties. But the main purpose of these blinds is to keep the horses focused, that they are moving forward and only looking in a forward direction. So that way they'll stay on the bit, they'll stay more attentive to the job that they're doing. They won't become afraid, or they won't be spooked by anything on the outside as well.
Much like a racehorse, the same reason they want them to focus on what's going on ahead of them and not on the side or the back.
It's difficult to keep these horses focused through the course of an event like this, and that type of equipment helps. You can see Daniel's front blinders are a little bit different shape than the ones in the back, so he's letting these leaders see a little bit more. They can see down, they can see forward, but they still can't see behind them, which is good. They don't want to be spooked or frightened by anything in any of the movement behind them. They also don't want to lose confidence in what's going on behind them.
It's interesting to watch, especially in slow motion, if they have to pull up quickly. Those poor wheelers, they have to go up in the air. They can't go forward because the leaders are in front of them, so they kind of put the back brakes on and go up in the air.
Normally at the end of a good marathon, you have some tired horses. They've been holding back that carriage and pulling that carriage all through this course and up and down these embankments and bridges. Prescribers resting a little bit in between the sections. There's quite a bit of space between the sections. There could be up to 2-3 kilometers in between the obstacles.
Daniel Vergler again from Switzerland with his checkerboard team.
Normally when we see fans running on the course, they're either trying to get out of the way or they're trying to chase their favorite driver and watch him in as many obstacles as possible. Here comes Daniel to the sunflowers. Gathered his team, got him in a gallop. pick the high line.
Once again, a couple of gals at the back of the carriage, the navigator and the back stepper.
That's a great turn.
And that's a tiny girl that's a back stepper on this team.
Daniel's having a great day today. Wow.
How they are so smooth, they're so even, and again, in any type of discipline, that's how you make up time, is being smooth.
And he knows he's got a good time. 62.74.
Daniel again, Switzerland. Great effort in the Sunflower Gate. You don't see any jerking or stopping or starting. It's all one big motion through this gate.
It's like these leaders know where they need to go. They're just doing a great job. He's driving the outside of these posts all the way around. Really fluid, really smooth.
Beautiful Auckland countryside again. It's a gorgeous day.
Here's Daniel coming to Mikado. Oh, Shrivers.
Kurt Shrivers, Belgium. Just wondering about the purchase getting up this hill now. It really seems to have a lot of rust. Are those, what type of tires are on?
These are just rubber tires
just
that
rubber?
are vulcanized onto these metal wheels. That's a tough turn. And he's going to pull it off. Risks like that, when you take in a world championship, produce results when they work out correctly. That was a super tight turn.
And off they go. Very good timing for the Mikado. Switzerland again. That gray wheeler is a big horse. What a beautiful picture that is. The horse is going up and over the bridge. It just takes you back, almost back in history where this sport began.
Well, we think bridges are part of the natural driving habitat for a horse. Bridges, covered bridges, things like that, water. So that's why they're included in these types of courses. See, Daniel's got a lot of stainless steel on this carriage, a lot of polish.
So the stainless steel obviously would make it a bit lighter, would it not?
Actually, I don't think it contributes to the weight of the carriage, but Daniel does a lot of indoor work as well, and under those lights on an indoor show, that carriage has a lot of flash, and it's great to watch. Makes it look like it might be going a little quicker than it really is.
Because you really wouldn't want it to be too light because it could flip.
That's right. Daniel's having a great marathon today. Horses are moving really smooth through these hazards. There he goes.
That didn't take long. And there doesn't look like there's an empty seat in that gallery for that gate.
I think that gallery is full, along with the rest of them.
Those rubber things you see around their feet are called bell boots, and sometimes what happens is a back foot can come up and catch a front foot or a heel or something, and that just prevents any injury from happening should that occur. There's a good picture of their bits there.
There he's got a knockdown floating around in the water that he took off on the way in through the B gate. Drivers.
So again, David, that second's taken off.
2 penalty points will be added to his time for that obstacle. Drivers team really handy here. It's weaving through this maze of triangles. A little bit of a bump, but no hesitation.
A little bump there.
Missed his turn for the last gate, so he's had to wrap around one time here now, pick that up.
Again, what category do you put that in? A navigational or driver or horse?
Could be a combination of both, Nancy. It could be navigational where he just got lost and forgot to turn. It could be that he had the turn ready and he had the loop in his hand to make the left turn into the gate. Or it just could have been that the horse ducked out of the turn and
just didn't make
it just didn't make it, and he then had to set a new course to get back to it.
Daniel Vergler, Switzerland, his home country.
No shortage of speed for Daniel this afternoon. All kinds of power coming into the dome. They look great wearing these polo type helmets.
I was thinking when I saw Tucker Johnson in a ball cap that at some point maybe they need to have helmets.
Some of the drivers are wearing helmets, some of them aren't. It's one of those things. Tucker is one of the ones that has yet to convert to wearing a helmet.
I'm sure, like the other sports, it'll probably come that it'll be mandatory.
At some point, I'm sure. Daniel doing a great job maneuvering around there and leaving the knockdowns on the posts. Just squeezes through there.
Just squeezes through. A little bump on the way out.
Just a little touch.
Chardon up next, one of the favorites for this marathon today.
Multiple-time world champion Isbjørn Chardon from Holland, and he is sitting in a very good position coming into this competition. He is in second place in dressage, so he's way up high on the leaderboard, and he is certainly capable of putting together a great marathon, let alone even winning this marathon. Drivers at the Arabian Oasis. These horses are really fit.
They're a beautifully matched team as well. They're almost perfectly matched, size-wise, color-wise.
I think from the Frisian that helps from the breeding, get some consistency.
We'll be back to the carriage driving marathon on Country Canada right after this.
CBC Country Canada and CBC Sports are proud to present exclusive same-day coverage of the 2006 World Equestrian Games from Aachen, Germany. This season, nobody gets away with murder. 3 extraordinary leading men, Patrick Stewart, Ray Winstone, and Oscar nominee Tom Conti, starring in 3 exclusive new series. The 11th Hour, Vincent, DNA. And there's only one place to see them, and that's on CBC Country Canada. Call your television provider and subscribe today.
National pride is on the line. Catch the majesty and the grace at the BMO Financial Group Nations Cup from Spruce Meadows next Saturday on CBC. Back to the marathon. Nice crowd response. Beautiful shot of the countryside.
Drivers here coming in to number 8, the Eiffel. I think his horses are in pretty good shape here. He's putting together a really good marathon. They don't look tired. "29 seconds, 30 seconds now." That turn's kind of interesting. Those horses want to always go out on that left gate.
Well, yeah, it makes more sense, though, for them to go straight ahead. And, I mean, I think that's what's so amazing about the design of these gates. He's got a very good time, David, coming up out of this gate.
He has the fastest time to date in this hazard so far for the day. Here's Eisbrun Chardon, multiple world champion.
Here's Eisbrun Chardon. 45 this year and a professional trainer in Den Hoorn. He wants to avenge a problem earlier on that cost him a medal, a cone down in the final phase at the last World Championships in Hungary, and it actually cost the Dutch team the chance, or it cost him actually the chance of an historic 4th world title. So he's out for blood today, David.
You're right, Nance. He's going to be going as hard as he possibly can to win this marathon. And he's going to be pushing this Dutch team as fast as they possibly can go, driving as fast as he can. And so far, it looks he's doing exactly that.
He's an
That's a short turn.
He's an 18-time Dutch national champion, and he's out of that gate with a fantastic time.
And he's just posted the fastest time of the day in that obstacle so far.
He would really be the early one to beat, David. Everybody would sort of put their money on him going into this event.
Well, being a marathon specialist anyways, he's capable of putting down a great marathon and collecting some great times through the marathon. Also, he's in a great position. He's sitting in 2nd position after dressage to Chester Weber, so he's in striking position of the gold medal and knows he can put together a good marathon as well.
He's actually been trying out some new horses lately, but I'm sure that he's chosen his 4 best. They're Dutch-bred geldings. I'm sure he's chosen his 4 best for the WEG.
I'm sure he's had all year to tune this team and try and hone out which horses and select which horses are going to be the best for this team for the WEG.
And that was a great turn there.
You can see him reach forward to grab those reins. He's a tall guy, and he can really reach forward and grab that lead rein and really put in a short turn a whole lot quicker than some of the average height drivers.
You see some of the spectators there moving from gate to gate, and here's Daniel Warbler coming into the Mikado. Switzerland, of course, is his team.
A little bit hung up there. And even with that time, he's moving pretty quickly through this obstacle. This team has a lot of speed. It seems like they can move a lot on the outside of the obstacle.
That's a little bit of a hiccup there.
A little bit. Lots of power going up onto the knoll. That break of momentum is so costly, Nance. It just stops the momentum of the team, and it's really hard to come back from it.
Well, you know, we spoke earlier, one of the things in really any of these disciplines is smoothness. So as soon as you have to stop up like that, whether it's a jumping horse on course or a dressage horse in its movements, that's costly penalty points.
Well, it's always this way in driving that we try not to get the carriage to touch or to bang into anything in the obstacle, just because it costs time, it costs seconds, which convert into penalty points. So the cleaner, the better. Chardon coming to number 2, the Sunflowers.
Again, the Netherlands having a great Nations Cup show jumping, and they'd like to cap it off with a driving championship as well. Although there isn't a time allowed in these gates, there's a time limit of 5 minutes, and if you're past that, of course, you incur more penalty points. You can see that most of the drivers really aren't anywhere near that, but should they have some sort of a backup or a bad turn and the clock ticked away,
they
more
could use
penalties.
up that time. You're right. That could lead to possible elimination once they're over the time allowed. That's 5 minutes. It's elimination. Really good turns in here. This is going to be one of the fastest times of the day so far as well. And the crowd's cheering. They know he's got a good time.
And they know it, and he is, I think, coming out of there with the fastest time on that gate. So a great Chardon is showing us why he is the top name that he is.
Look at the determination in that face.
Then from all that excitement, it's just great the way the horses can then just pick up a nice trot, relax, get their heart rate back down till they get to the next gate.
They put them out on the course there and just try and get them to relax a little bit in between the obstacles. Number 6, Burglar. Looks like he's having the marathon of his life. He's posted some really good times. Look at this turn.
David easily around there. That carriage was absolutely nowhere near those gates, and what a smooth transition from one to the other.
His timing today is impeccable. He's putting together great turns and using the speed to carry the momentum of this carriage.
And out he goes. And again, he sort of went out through another route as well, too.
He's gone out that back route, and that's proving to put some fast times on the board as well. He's got one of the fastest times of the day so far in that obstacle. Great turn. Start on number 3, the Seaside Resort, up over the big bridge.
Und hier ist die Bestzeit von Josef Dobrowitz, der 73,52. Zweimal hat er die zweitbeste Zeit. Time to beat at the water, 73.52 seconds set by Josef Dobrowitz.
Chardon tearing this marathon course up. Unbelievable. He's driving so smooth and so fluid through this obstacle. Horses are pulling the carriage with ease.
And again, that is why I think he's so fast, is the smoothness. I don't think we've seen anybody make that turn at that rate of speed.
Not at that speed, Nancy. This has been the fastest driven so far.
Just has to make that turn and back up over the bridge.
He'll make that hard left now. Straight up over. And that's a short turn as well. I think you're going to see this is going to be one of the fastest times so far in this hazard.
Over the bridge, races for the exit.
And yes, it is.
And 80.35, and I'm just doing a bit of rapid cal here, and I think that puts Heisbron Chardon into the lead at the point that we're at now. Remember, not everybody has started, but I think we do have a leader at the moment. However, it's not over, David, until it's over, and we've got some great competitors coming up in the next group. George Bowman, of course, is one that I'm anxious to see. Jimmy Fairclough from the States, so going to be lots to challenge him.
We are also waiting for Michael Freund. So we have a lot of great drivers up and coming. Burglar at the
Mr.
Arabian.
Personality.
Yes, Mr. Personality. Wows the crowd at the Royal every.
Oh, he wows me. I know that. I can't wait till it's his night to have the microphone on, because he's just so much fun and he gets the crowd going.
Loved by all.
And an orange wave of Dutch supporters heading for obstacle 4.
I think every sport sort of has its personalities and whatever, but this particular sport, I guess because there's such a wide variance in ages, seems to have a lot more than some.
And great job here by Burglar. That's the fastest time of the day in that obstacle as well so far. So he's setting quite the standard here as well. Now to the Eiffel Village.
How long does it take to hitch up a team like this? If you start right from the beginning and bring all 4 horses out, complete with all their harness, that's a time-consuming.
It is a time-consuming thing, but these guys can be pretty much underway in a matter of a minute or so.
Oh, that doesn't seem possible.
Doesn't take that long once their harness is on. And Wurgler really flying.
Whoa, and that was, you couldn't put a feather between the wheel of the carriage and that railing.
You see the back end of that carriage whip around after that turn.
So Chardon, our leader, but there are a lot of people hot on his heels, and this is one of them.
Yeah, and Wurgler has the fastest time so far in that obstacle, 64.
And guess who those supporters are? Those beautiful orange shirts of the Netherlands following their favorite driver. Here's Chardon again.
Coming to the octagon.
I know with harness horses, they have areas of their harness that they shorten and lengthen to make the horse travel in a different way. Is that something that would be happening with with these driving horses as well?
Oh, there's lots of adjustments, Nancy, technical adjustments that make these horses move in a different way, and they spend a lot of time, these drivers, getting this equipment correctly adjusted for these horses to maximize foot flight, to maximize speed, to maximize action, and to maximize comfort.
And that would be a time-consuming... Whoops, almost didn't make that turn, but...
He's pushing hard around this
sure
little
is.
turn here, and you can see that the carriage has a lot of speed. And now he's going to go.
And he is the second fastest person through that gate so far, so that was a great performance there by Chardon.
Looks like he may have posted a fast time as well, as you mentioned.
So a little break for Daniel Vertler's team coming through the finish line. Again, there's that optimum time, and if they're not near it, they have to take a little...
He's going to be happy with his day, that's
time.
for sure. I think he's going to be satisfied and happy. He had a great marathon. There's the team Chef de Keep coming up.
And here is George Bowman, the one that I want to see. George is 71 years young this year.
George has been competing on the circuit longer than all of these drivers and has competed in so many world championships over the years, it's almost hard to calculate how many. But he's driving here as Cumberland Cobbs and doing a great job.
He's won individual silver and bronze in the World European Championships, and has only missed one World Four-in-Hand Driving Championship.
Little
so
repair.
What a great record in 33 years of competitive driving.
That's a long time to be competing.
Aachen will be George's 16th World Championship, so there's not many that can come anywhere near close to that record.
Chardon coming into Mikado. Whoa. That hill has a lot of carry. You can see as the horses come down it, the carriage literally gets pulled down it, and that's a tight turn.
I'm interested that a lot of these horses, David, would be ridden. Would they ride them more for relaxation, or would they be riding them to perhaps bone up on their dressage skills?
These horses are easier schooled under saddle than they are in harness. So a lot of these dressage horses are ridden. Chardon making the short turn here, back up and around. Seems like the way to go if you're going to do well in this obstacle. Everybody that's posting good scores have gone that route. We finally have the sun coming out today.
And we're looking at our current leader in at the moment. Keep in mind, not all the contestants have started. And he's up and out of there.
Great score for Eisman. One of the fastest times of the day so far in that obstacle.
I think that's Sultan Lazar. Is it starting now from Hungary? It is. And Zoltan is the current world champion, I believe, David.
Yes, Zoltan's the current world four-in-hand driving champion. Here's George in number 1.
Can't miss those yellow hats. Representing Great Britain, of course.
George does a lot of whistling with his horses. You can hear him in the background. That's a great turn. It's a quick little team.
And you're looking at Boyd, Jimmy, Ricky, and Sam competing today. So easy names to remember. Really beautifully matched team. They look a lot lighter in build to me, David, to some of them. They look a lot leggier, and they look like they're more suited for galloping.
Well, he calls these Cumberland Cobs. I'm not exactly sure what the mixed breed is, but I think they are part Hackney and part Welsh. So he's got a couple of different things bred into these horses, and he's had a lot of success with these horses because, as we were talking about before, they're small and they're rangy and they can cover a lot of ground, and they fit in these obstacles really, really well. You have to have a lot of power.
Again, you wonder if the lighter bill can pull the load, and I think they would have more stamina because they are a lighter bill, but when I think of that 12 or 1,300 pound carriage, that's a lot to pull.
Well, so far it's working for him, Nance. He's posted the third fastest time of the day in the first obstacle.
You couldn't get a better spectator sport. You could almost reach out and touch the horses as they go by, and I'm interested to see that you say they follow their favorite driver, so they will actually go ahead to the next gate.
They'll run ahead to the next obstacle and wait for that driver to show up, so the Chardon fans are chasing Chardon right now, and
well, that's great.
It's a non-issue as long as you only have one driver that you want to run around the course and follow. It's when you have two and they're close together that life can be pretty interesting. It's a great sport to have a bicycle in.
It sure would be.
Sultan Lazar.
Time is 74.23 seconds for George Bannon.
George was part of the team gold medalists at the 2004 in Hungary.
Zoltan not afraid to drive quick here.
And these are gray Lipizaners, more Lipizaners, the second team that we've seen. You'll be looking, of course, oh, and a problem here, David.
Got them backed off that post. They split that post.
Zoltan will be looking for an individual medal this time round.
He's got one more turn. Those horses look pretty relaxed, don't you think, Nancy?
They sure do.
After that.
And I'm interested to see that fast gallop that obviously is putting him through the timers, and then you see him bring them back down to a relaxing trot. Again, I'm sure it gets their heart rate back down, and as you pointed out, David, gets them more relaxed. There he goes through the timers. Fantastic crowd on hand today.
Here's Chardon. Number 6. Chardon moving really quickly through this obstacle.
He was really unlucky at the Royal Windsor show in May when one of his horses knocked a post and he had to retire from the cross country. So I'm sure he wants to avenge that.
Yes, he does, Nance. I was there and I watched that as it was underway, and unfortunately had to withdraw. He was ahead at
but
that
then
point.
Came back the next week right here in Aachen and won the CAIO.
Looks like Eisbrun has put another one on the board, one of the fastest times of the day. It's funny, some of these bigger horses with these carriages, looks like there's lots of room. It depends how they drive it and the angle from the camera, but other times there's no room.
There's George, as I said before, 71 years young, and he doesn't look anywhere near that age, and I'm sure in enthusiasm he's like a 20-year-old.
And George at the Seaside is not afraid to go fast.
Can't mistake those yellow helmets and yellow halters. You can see them from a distance.
Typical English fashion, they drive their horses with halters on top of their bridles just in case there's any issues and they can lead their horses away easily.
So it's a safety feature and not such a bad one.
Not a bad one, but there's, I guess there's a couple of different rules of thought on it. Just touch the side of that D gate. One of the rules would be that you have that if you need it, and then the other one would be that it could get caught on something as well. So one more thing to get hung up on. George having a really good go here.
Again, I don't think I've seen him put that right foot on the brake at all, David.
Whoop, out goes the water bottle.
I can't imagine that he could reach down and have a drink of water anyhow, so.
I'm not sure when he was drinking from it last, but it certainly wasn't in the last, during the last obstacle. No time.
I think that's wishful thinking on his part to put that in. Maybe, again, it's a safety feature. If he had to get pulled over on the side of the road, he could have a drink of water.
George from the old school, he's got his times up in front of him on the dash of that vehicle, and the dashboard of that vehicle, and he likes to look and see where he is, and probably keeps his own clock as well.
Another great place to view this carriage driving marathon from. And again, you see some of the three-day event fences. You see evidence of them. This course was built on the three-day event course. The designer had to wait until the event was over to complete his construction of the driving obstacles.
Short on coming to number 8, the Eiffel Village.
David, he should be pretty pleased what's happened so far coming into this last gate.
These drivers have a pretty good feel of what's going on here, what kind of marathon they're having, and how their progress is through the course. So I think he's got a pretty good idea that he knows he's got a good marathon put together here and that his times are really good in these obstacles. So he's looking for good results.
I'm really pleased to see, too, how fit these horses must be. I mean, there isn't a bead of sweat on them. They're just as fresh as they looked at the beginning.
We haven't seen that many tired horses today. No. We've only seen a couple that were a little bit sweaty, but we haven't seen any that were really tired. So, you know, these guys have been working these horses really hard and training them really hard, which is part of the essence of being a true competitor. Oh, great turn. And now he goes. And that also is the fastest time of the day so far.
So he is heading now to the finish line. He's through all the gates, all 8 of them.
And the look and determination in his face, unbelievable. Eisbrun Chardon.
And I think, David, am I wrong? That's going to be a pretty good marathon to top.
That's going to be one of the tough ones to beat. And he's happy.
And
he knows he's happy.
Yes, he said. Take that, everybody behind me.
So the challenge has been laid down.
The Netherlands, of course.
Lazar.
Hungary.
Bestzeit gefahren in Hindernis Nummer 2 und in Hindernis Nummer 3.
Ground getting really chewed up and heavy going. That must be so much harder on the horses that are later on in the draw to pull through that heavy mud.
Well, if they have the momentum moving with the carriage, it's not so difficult, but if they get hung up, it becomes more difficult.
Well, and the problem in that area, David, of course, is it's going up the hill, and it's pretty hard to be, having momentum and pulling through there, but these are tough little characters, and they made it happen.
They make it go. It's the lengthening and the shortening of these turnouts, too, that make it so difficult as they bend and go up and down these hills and these turns, so that's part of the reason that it gets so torn up. But you can almost see he's got those horses placed in a completely different position when he comes around that D gate as a lot of those other competitors. He's setting up for the next turn on the opposite side of the bank at a whole lot better position, so he can make this short turn here, get him up over the bridge in good time.
And driving hard, of course, to trip that finishing timer for the gate. Remember, every one of these individual gates, their time is converted to penalties, and at the end of the day.
And that's going to be one of the fastest times of the day. He just beat Dijsman Chardon in that obstacle. There's a happy Chardon.
Coming to the finish for Chardon. A happy crew. Like every athlete, you know when you've done something right. You know when you've done it wrong, but you really know when you've done something right, and he is just reveling in it.
He's happy.
Chardon, the Netherlands. Here we see him at the finish line.
George, number 5. This might be more confusing for us to look at than it is for the actual teams to look at.
Yeah, no kidding. We saw it actually. Now what's going on here? He's sort of stopping, changing his mind.
And he's changed his mind at the same time.
But
Went to the left,
David, costly seconds there.
Very costly. And then what happens is he has to gather his thoughts, gather his time, and then he comes down off the bank and has to make a turn. It takes a lot of the momentum out of it.
And this hill is getting really slippery now. You can see evidence of it there. Remember, there are several options to all these gates. Now he's backing up. Again, they missed a turn, so this has not been a very good gate, the Mikado, for George Bowman. He's had to have 2 changes of mind.